Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Joe.
And you're listening to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? The podcast. And this week, we're reviewing Dunkirk, starring Tom Hardy.
Oh, no, Mike. Just say Harry Styles, please.
Well, I mean, there's not really a main character in this movie, and Tom Hardy has more screen time.
Trust me on this one. Say Harry Styles. Oh, no, we're too late.
God help us all. Welcome to How Many Fingers Am I Holding Up? Featuring two guys getting blasted from the past and reviewing movies in a weekly podcast form.
And that came straight from Amy Camacho. She left that for us via Facebook. And that's a reference to an older episode, too.
I don't remember which episode. Oh, I guess it was the Mummy episode, because we were talking about Brendan Fraser, movies he had been in. And I was talking about how much I loved Blast from the Past that he is in. Or I couldn't remember the name of it. And she
good movie.
She supplied the name for us on
comment.
YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Thanks, Amy.
Thank you, Amy. And if you have any further synonym suggestions, you can leave those for us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Gmail, wherever social media is sold.
Wow. Yeah.
The internet.
But to delay no further...
Let us delay no further. God damn
Fuck, it's every time. It's every day, bro.
It's every day, bro.
With that Disney Channel flow.
Passing all the competition, man.
PewDiePie is next.
It's a good rhyme.
Yeah. Hey, can we switch up the language? We're going to go through all of them.
All the memes.
Yes. Uh-huh.
I don't know
England is my city.
Yes, I can rap.
And you know he stays litty. But I already forgot how you corrected me.
Let us delay
no further. Betwixt us is the lovely my girlfriend.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Harry Styles.
Come here, baby. I don't want to move him because there was a glare on him beforehand.
It was a tender kiss.
But it's, by tender, we didn't kiss at all. Mike, I'm not gay, dude.
I would
Why
never
would I kiss that
Harry
guy?
Styles.
Yeah. I never kiss guys when I'm drunk. But Sabrie, who's
Sabrie.
She's no stranger to the podcast. This is
her fourth appearance on the podcast.
What?
You're in the leaderboard. You're up there.
What?
You were on Hello, My Name is Doris,
Yeah.
Finding Dory, and The Girl on the Train. And Dunkirk would be number 4.
A lot of door sounds.
I can't count, I guess. I don't know.
Also, for the same director of Hello, My Name is Doris, stay tuned next week for The Big Sick.
The Big Short.
The Big Short.
No, that's...
The Big Lebowski.
Oh, no.
The Big Sleep.
The Big Chill.
But Sabrie called this episode very long ago, probably like the farthest in advance.
A little over a year
that
ago?
An episode has
Almost,
been called.
Yeah. Uh-huh. And
I fucking got it.
And I don't know if you can tell by what's going on here, but Sabrie, you're a huge fan of Christopher Nolan.
Yes.
No, she's a gigantic fan of Harry Styles.
And One Direction.
And One Direction.
All
in general.
5 of the guys in 1D.
Well,
or four
except
now.
Zayn
4.
anymore. Well,
rest in
because-
peace. The Zayn version of One Direction.
R.I.P. Zayn.
But I mean, your favorite's always been Harry.
Oh, yeah.
So this was
I have an H.
this was a
Harry.
shoo-in.
Is that what it's for?
Well, and my last name, but also Harry.
That's
Mostly
how
Harry.
she covers it up. But show us this merchandise you've got here. You've got the
okay.
doll, a magazine.
Yeah, I got
Colgate.
toothbrush, toothpaste.
Hold it up for the camera. What do we got?
Okay. Toothbrush, toothpaste.
Unopened.
Yeah.
Original
Yes.
packaging.
Yeah. Some
Gonna be worth a lot one
some
day.
some really weird like One Direction movies that are just like
Some unauthorized
yeah,
documentaries.
they're like really bad. Some patches.
Unopened.
Yeah.
Another
a
unauthorized.
singing keychain, but it's ran out of batteries because I probably played it too much.
Also unopened.
Harry.
Harry's here for the review.
This Harry.
That's good.
My shirt.
not
I have a
creepy at all.
dog tag and a blanket. And I also have other Harry stuff, but it's like too precious to be.
There's
around
only so
all
much
of
space
this.
on this table.
Yeah.
Right. If you were to
I could move you guys and then just.
If you were to see the opposing wall of our apartment, there's a large, just gigantic framed picture of Harry Styles, too. She's also got numerous magazines everywhere with Harry's face.
It's pretty great because that you guys bought that from IKEA, that frame,
like,
and I've been coming here
years ago?
forever, and it's always just had like the whatever the frame's name is,
could-
and like
Yeah,
the
like the
dimensions. Like you never
logo.
put a picture in
Right.
there, and I would always make jokes about it, and then I thought you guys were to do like a nice family photo or something. And I come and it's like a pull out from like a magazine of Harry,
Yeah.
which is very appropriate.
It is.
I mean,
it's a weird
It's tasteful.
shape, to fill, but yeah, no. Something needed to go there eventually. But yeah.
He's just watching you while you're watching
no,
TV.
it's really creepy.
But yeah, this is Harry's big debut as an actor.
No, it's not.
Well, yeah, that's true.
you know
We've
about his-
already seen Harry in theaters before.
No.
We have?
Well, in the
Me and
One
Sabrie.
Direction movie,
Oh, okay.
but
We've seen Harry Styles
He
in
was-
3D IMAX for One Direction.
Direction.
This Is Us.
But
It's in 3D.
Yes.
oh my,
Oh, it was directed by the guy who did Super Size Me.
it's like
It was like a high tier like documentary for some reason.
But
It was-
if you like watch, like, because they have like, it's like good, it's like behind the scenes shit, and then there's like they're performing on like stage and like I don't know where, but
it's just all 3D's
they have
all in
like
post.
all of this like animation that's happening. That's like their superhero. It's like really weird. But he was also in iCarly.
Oh, he
Oh,
was.
that's right. One
yeah.
Direction was on iCarly, yes.
We forgot. Mike and I went through a huge iCarly phase.
I know, that's what I thought you were gonna
Everyone's
say.
pausing their like podcast app now. Like, wait, what? Yeah, you've been listening to two real weird.
Two grown iCarly fans.
I don't know why I'm here.
Mike and I used to live in the same room and have like a big iCarly poster.
Oh god.
It was the one that had like her like clearly very young, but it had like all like the like oh my god, LOL, like just like all like the like text abbreviations just
no.
behind her.
I'm like,
It's under my bed. I'm waiting to find a place to hang
Frame
it.
it.
I don't. It isn't a frame. I just
Yeah,
don't have
no,
enough
oh,
space to
well,
hang
you
it
need
up.
like a gaudy frame like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
You need something good, Mike.
Some royal, prestigious frame.
But yeah.
But yeah, so I guess we can't really hate on Sabrie for being a fan of a teen heartthrob because we were fans of iCarly.
Yeah, no, it's a little, and it's not like Miranda Cosgrove's starring in a Christopher Nolan movie, so she's really
not- she's
there's
not
no
doing
merit
anything.
to what
She
we're
was
doing.
in
Yeah.
Despicable Me 3.
Yeah,
Tune in-
that's true.
Tune in last week.
It's all connected. Oh,
And
boy.
now we're back.
Oh boy. But we're drinking something this week.
Well, I bought Pearl vodka, cucumber flavored, because I was always like, oh, what does cucumber vodka taste like? And we're about to
This was
figure
your
out.
purchase. This wasn't Sabrie's.
No, this is my purchase.
Wow.
Yeah,
He always buys the weirdest shit.
He likes to try new stuff.
I do.
Yeah, like
I'm
the
very-
fire Pepsi.
Yes.
I did actually want to buy that.
Avoid that. It tastes like a really bad Fireball, except it's not alcoholic.
And it
Like,
has
it's-
pep.
yeah.
Yeah, it's like there's no
And
like
there's-
good part to it because
yeah,
there's no
no,
alcohol.
there's really no. Even if you mix that with Fireball, I couldn't see it working. But we were like mixing it before with this, which is like a cucumber melon seltzer, but it really wasn't working out. So I bought ginger ale, and then I also muddled. Not really. I feel like muddled
You squeezed.
required different. I kind of just bashed it with a spoon.
I mean,
a lime,
that's kind of.
a lime, and a cucumber in there, and mix it with ginger ale, and it's not bad. I
actually
did
am
forget to
done,
make ice though, and everyone reminded me of that.
It is warm.
I mean, he did
But
put
it's
it in the
not
freezer
bad.
for like 10 minutes.
So my recipe for this drink is serve warm. Yeah.
Do not put ice.
Yes. No ice involved.
Leave the alcohol out at room temperature all day.
And also the ginger ale.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. There were no elements of this besides maybe the cucumber that
The
was
lime
refrigerated.
maybe brought a little bit of cold to it.
No, the lime.
It's pretty good though, as
yeah.
far as like whenever we try to do like mixed drinks on this,
kind
I
of
feel like it
into
doesn't
it.
turn out too well.
Maybe this is like my new thing.
It would be great if it had ice. But
It
it's,
would.
It's just pretty good right now.
I feel like a
You know what-
bartender right now.
You know what would also be
Everyone-
good in it?
Yeah, what?
Like some basil. Is that weird? I feel like that'd be good.
No, yeah, I can get into
They go
that.
together. Or
I
some-
think once you put cucumber in your
we could
drink,
put
you're
some mint in this as
you're
well.
opening
Yeah. Ooh, I have
a
both.
door to
We can like
other
fuck
things.
it up, you know?
Is it like dried basil?
No, I have a basil plant.
Like the kind you'd like what you'd put on your pizza. Yeah, put in my
You
drink.
just like suck it through a straw. It's fine.
But yeah.
Let's talk.
Oh yeah, we forgot. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this is our first episode that we've recorded since appearing live at the Philadelphia Podcast Festival, which was quite the event.
It was. Mike, do you want to tell us about the beginning of that day?
So Joe and I were like freaking out about doing this. I mean, I think we talked about this in the podcast, just like
I don't think we have. I don't think we've.
We did go into how it
this
was-
because we didn't want to jinx it yet. But I know I didn't like ask Sabrie. Like I didn't even really get nervous until like 2 or 3 days before.
And
I
then-
definitely talked
and
about
then
getting nervous.
He was a
and
fucking.
I was
Wreck.
a wreck. I like. Yeah.
I don't know if I heard your side of being a
Oh.
wreck of this.
Oh, I was just very nervous. First, I was fine up until all of a sudden I started picturing us like being in front of like this very big bar and these people who don't want to hear us because again, we're in front of a very mixed crowd. This is not like a How Many Fingers show. This is a festival where people are, there's different slots where people are going on. And again, we didn't perform for primarily like our audience. Like our audience was there, but there's other podcast audience watching us. I mean, I even said this like earlier when we were talking about it, like who we were facing like a few feet away from us in like the front row were like people who were like 10, 20 years older than us. And I was trying to please them the entire time. But honestly, yeah, no, I thought we were going to be in a bar like with a bunch of people who were like, oh, fuck you, man. Like
Trying to drink here.
Yeah, exactly. And I got nervous about that. And then all of a sudden I get a call. Mike and I are like, let's get
Wait
there.
a minute.
Like,
Hold up.
Yeah.
He was like freaking out, and I'm like trying to like, help him through these things as a therapist, because that's what I do.
She brings her work home.
And he's like, that doesn't help. And he like freaked out. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna walk away. I'm not even gonna.
I
Bye.
have bad anxiety.
No, I was definitely freaking out.
No,
It's-
I know,
it's
but I was like
reasonable
trying to be like, okay, let's get
nothing you can say to anybody will ever help. I think it's the person has to.
The anticipation of it is always the worst. And as soon as it
Right.
starts, and I knew this going into it, I was
Right.
like, as soon as we get like 5 minutes into this, I'm going to feel fine.
Honestly,
You just need to get into that rhythm of doing
walked-
something you're familiar with.
I walked into the bar and saw the layout of it, and I was fine. Like even like my first like few times talking, like when I was up, I was fine. Like we turned on a theme song and I was like dancing to it or whatever.
It took me a little bit.
I wish, and again, I'd love to go there next time if they'll have us. I don't think we burned any bridges, but I'd love to like.
Well, listen to the episode.
I'd love to go in like guns blazing next time and like really like amp it up and be like crazy next time. Because the stress is kind of gone. Again, like I know what it's like there now, and again, I didn't know if like all the organizers were gonna be like watching us and being like, "What the fuck is this?" kind of,
Yeah.
And
There
again,
was-
our format doesn't entirely work in a live setting. Which is why, if you guys have listened to the episode, we kind of go off script in the sense that we bring up people and have them talk about movies. We talk just
It
randomly
was really
about
just a
movies.
free and open discussion that was semi-guided by notes and the fact that we were anticipating having people come up and ask them about, what were your favorite movies, what were your least favorite movies, and just see where it goes from there.
I think the point that I didn't like realize is that like you didn't want to like ruin movies for people.
Oh, yeah.
Which is like something that I didn't kind of realize because like, okay, you can like choose to listen to like the podcast or like a certain episode if you haven't seen it, like
The people
whatever.
there didn't choose to.
Right. So
They
I
didn't
didn't
click
like
on a
think
link
of
that said, a review of Despicable
Right.
Me or Dunkirk or
Right.
whatever.
Right. You're right. We didn't want to alienate half of our audience, because half of them are still struggling from podcast before and half of them are for podcast after. It's kind of like, if we talk more broadly about movies, again, it's not our show. So, yeah. But
y'all boys did good.
Mike's transmission, I guess, gave out on the way there, and we had to go pick him up. And I think from there is when it really shifted, and being nervous became less important to me, and it was more like, okay, we gotta go get Mike.
We gotta rescue Mike.
And then
the Chick-fil-A parking lot.
And then instead of getting there 2 hours early, I was now like, we gotta get there on time. Kind of. So yeah.
Yeah, but I think it turned out all right. I'm pretty happy with how
it did.
I'm proud of y'all boys.
I should have known, because I've done so many like performances like with my band where like I would be nervous heading into it, and the first song would honestly not be great. But then like once you just get into that rhythm, you're like, yeah, like there's a reason I'm in a fucking band. There's a reason we're in a fucking podcast, and it was kind of smooth sailing from there on out.
Oh, definitely. And I can't thank enough. Again, the audience was a little more shy than we anticipated.
I thought they were good.
Well, because we did ask for people to come up, and Kevin came up first, who was kind of a godsend, and he like started like people really got into us talking about.
If there was enough time, people would have like.
Well, that's the thing. During our
Kevin was pretty like trigger happy with like, all right, like I'll hop up first.
He came up,
which is good. It got us going.
Yeah, and then again, both Kevin and then Joe Mano, A Word Podcast, came up, and they both had like really funny bits to discuss up there. And then again, I think the audience became enough; they became pretty comfortable. And then somebody from another podcast wanted to come up for our third spot.
Bill Lambusta from the Great Albums podcast.
So definitely go check that out too. But it was like a really great experience. It's a great, like, it was really well planned. I mean, we went in there and got free drinks and everything, which
it was a cool environment to just like it gave us sort of a sense of community. I thought I got after being there, like like I always got that from being in a band, and like because you're going out, you're meeting these other bands in person, and you're putting a face to those bands.
There's not a podcast scene, really.
Yeah, you know, and this kind of it gave us an element of that to like go out and talk to other people from other podcasts and hear their experiences, and to see how they would do things live, and just meet people from other podcasts that you didn't know before they started podcasting. So that was pretty cool.
I think as like a viewer, it was like really cool to see like you guys, like, because you know this is like the normal setup that I know of, and then like to see it like live, it was like very cool. But then to see like other people's podcasts and like how they're different, I don't know. I had fun. I didn't get free drinks though.
It was a good time.
Free drinks were cool. Free drinks helped with the anxiety for sure.
Yeah, well, honestly, I didn't really start drinking until we started recording. And, like, that was, like, a big thing. I was like, I should just probably have 2 or 3 drinks before we get up on there. But, like, we got there late.
Yeah, we thought we were going to get there at 2, and we went on at 4. We got there at, like, 3:40 and went on at 4.
We start, like, stone cold sober, really. And as we get into it, like, our first beer or whatever. Yeah, I mean, once I found out we were getting free drinks, I was like, guys, let's stay, like, a while. Yeah. But yeah,
I also had my first real Philly cheesesteak that night.
He did,
yeah. Which is pretty cool. I've been to Philly so many times, but every time we go, we're like going at like we're watching a show and getting out at like 1 or 2 in the morning, and all those big places are closed by then.
I think we went to Jim's, and that was a walkable experience, just because.
Oi.
Because what's it called? Tattoo Mom is on South Street. Jim's is on South Street.
Oh,
I don't know if
not because we saw that fight.
Oh my gosh, yeah, that was interesting.
I don't even know how to describe that, so I'm not even gonna try. We just saw an interaction that was pretty funny.
But let's get into talking about this movie, just because I know there's a lot we want to say or whatever. All right, so
fuck it up, boys.
Papa,
give me the
with your permission.
IMDb.
I shall recite the IMDb description.
From memory?
Yes. Maybe.
I have it from memory, don't worry.
Also, if you're not watching this on video, you should definitely watch it just for the One Direction
paraphernalia.
It's also really hot in here. So,
well, it's going to get hotter. Because I'm
Harry.
Yes, Harry. Whatever. Okay. Allied soldiers from Belgium, the British Empire, and France are surrounded by the German army and evacuated during a fierce battle in World War II.
Whoa.
I mean, that's history.
Yeah.
This sounds like
Did you guys know anything about the Battle of Dunkirk?
I was literally about to say, were either of you familiar with
Going
it?
into the movie, you mean?
Yeah.
Well,
Only because-
no, but
Before you knew that this movie was
No.
announced, before you got obsessed with
No.
Christopher
But can I
Nolan
tell you that
via
also
Harry Styles.
I watched like interviews and like a lot of. Is this gonna be a thing if I say something?
what?
there's no.
It's history. So
It's
you
Okay,
history.
okay,
There's
okay.
no real spoilers.
But basically,
yeah.
like there was like Harry was like talking about, oh well, like this isn't something that we really learned in school that much either because it was like a very like not proud moment for like British troops.
I
Really,
I was under
assumed
the
it was
impression that it was like a
something the UK knew, and not.
well,
Yeah.
they do, and they like learn about it, but it's like very, very like glazed over. Like, oh, this happened at Dunkirk, and then they move on. It's not like
I thought it was like a big battle that they all knew about.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to say, I don't know whether it's left
Because
out.
I would think their other moments are not proud, like colonialism and like
Yeah, there's a lot of
fighting to keep America.
I mean,
Right,
but it's we also know a very Americanized history, and like, was this not a part of the American history curriculum?
I mean, I never
Because
learned about it.
We weren't involved in this
Yeah.
particular conflict.
Yeah,
or
it was before we got in the war.
Yeah, we didn't get into the war until like 1940. I don't know. I did learn about it when I first heard about this movie, and I looked it up on like Wikipedia. But I mean, again, I don't know. I might have learned about it in school, but my disinterest in history is so strong that I might have never retained it or just completely forgot about
I don't
it.
remember ever hearing about it. In
History has
school.
always been my
Yeah,
least
and
favorite.
again, I don't really like partake in like recreational history reading.
I think the only
outside of
time World War
school.
II came up in history was in like U.S. History 2 or something.
Mm-hmm.
There was
So
a
this-
second
this-
U.S. history.
You guys didn't do U.S. History 2?
I don't know. I'm from Oklahoma.
US
We
history,
got Oklahoma
U.S. History 1
history.
is like Revolutionary War to like Civil War or whatever, and then U.S. History 2 would be
Wait,
like
did you guys have
modern-
to take a class that was like New Jersey history?
No.
Oh, we had to take Oklahoma history.
That sounds
What is
terrible.
there to Oklahoma history?
I mean, just like, you know,
People came out
lots
for
of
the gold
like
rush and
Native
stayed?
American stuff, I think.
There's
like
so many-
a lot of like
There's so many different lesson plans
Although I guess-
that are outside of like like when in high school things are divided into like these different like U.S. History 1, U.S. History 2, World History kind of. When you're in elementary school, they're just kind of teaching you about whatever the fuck you want.
yeah. But we in high school it was Oklahoma history. Like that was the thing we had
Well,
to
also
take.
like New Jersey history is like kind of just included in like U.S. History 1 because they're one of the
True.
original
Yeah.
states. So
Yeah,
like you learn about the
okay.
13 colonies, and New Jersey's part of that. Like we definitely learned about like the formation of New Jersey.
that makes
and whatnot.
sense. Okay.
Um,
It was carved by God.
But yeah, I did not know a whole lot.
Sorry.
Is there a lot
Jersey
of
or Oklahoma?
is there a lot of
New
God
Jersey?
in the Oklahoma history?
Like New Jersey.
and
he
then
was
God
like,
made Oklahoma.
It was like the formation of New Jersey. I was like, it was carved by God. Like he whittled it out from stone. From
I
the
think God
earth.
would create a better state than New Jersey.
Cut off the shore. Then it makes
Lower the
another shore.
taxes a little bit. But Dunkirk was written and directed by Christopher Nolan. He's done the following, not the following, Memento, Insomnia, which he was an uncredited co-writer for. The rest of these he wrote and directed. Batman Begins, The Prestige, The Dark Knight, Inception, The Dark Knight Rises, and Interstellar. And then he was a producer on Man of Steel and an executive producer on Transcendence and Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice. So he's
Christopher Nolan.
he's fared much better as a writer and director than he has as a producer or executive producer. But 25 years prior to making the film, Christopher Nolan came upon the idea when he and his wife Emma Thomas sailed across the English Channel to Dunkirk. Is it the Emma Thomas, or are we thinking of Emma Thompson?
Oh.
I think that's who I was thinking.
Me too.
She had a link on Wikipedia, so she might be someone notable. But Nolan wrote the 76-page screenplay, about half the length of his usual scripts and his shortest to date. And what made the project attractive to Nolan was its inherent contradiction to Hollywood formula, as the Battle of Dunkirk was not a victory, did not involve America, and yet demanded a big-scale production to be put on screen. Nolan decided to postpone Dunkirk until he had plenty of experience directing large-scale blockbuster action films. To accurately convey the perspective of the soldiers on the beach, for whom contact with the enemy was extremely limited and intermittent, he made a conscious decision to never show Germans on screen. Also omitted were Winston Churchill and any of the scenes of generals in a war room, as Nolan did not want to get bogged down in the politics of the situation, which is something I didn't realize as I was watching it. I realized that it was different from other war films, but it took me reading that Wikipedia to be like, that's what fucking sets it apart, is that we don't have that like war room scene of like, oh, let's move this chess piece over here, and this is what we're doing. Like,
and he also waited because
have those scenes of like the authority figures kind of discussing,
but they were there.
But it was also like very brief too. Like it
wasn't a war room. Yeah,
and it was just like that wasn't like the movie. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. It wasn't It wasn't a narrative device,
Nolan made a deal with Warner Brothers whereby he would receive $20 million salary plus 20% of the box office gross, the most lucrative deal since Peter Jackson received the same amount for King Kong.
Damn.
Dang, Daddy.
Get it, baby.
Nolan getting his due.
Nolan, Daddy, call me up, baby.
Daddy Nolan.
You're welcome from all the One Direction girls out there.
The film was shot on a combination of IMAX 65mm and 65mm large format film stock in Panavision System 65, with more IMAX footage shot than in any of Nolan's previous films. An estimated 75% Panavision and IMAX lenses provided the ability to shoot at night. And for the first time in a feature film, IMAX cameras were used in a handheld capacity, which was advised by Steven Spielberg and Ron Howard as the best way to shoot on vessels. And then this I just thought was an interesting note, is that the 12 actual little ships of Dunkirk were used in filming, piloted by their current owners. Because I did kind of notice that when the ships actually show up, they're kind of older people that are piloting them. I don't think they're the people that were alive during Dunkirk, obviously, but they just look like older people piloting those ships. And those are the actual people that own those ships now, like those historical ships that actually went to Dunkirk. So that's pretty cool. The film stars Fionn Whitehead, James D'Arcy, Kenneth Branagh, Cillian Murphy, Mark Rylance, Tom Hardy, Tom Glynn-Carney, Jack Lowden, and Ewan Barnard, Barry Keoghan, Michael Caine, and a voice cameo on radio, and 1/5 of One Direction. Harry Styles.
What the fuck is Harry? Come on.
Harry.
I have to say, I really like the fact that this cast is all like just actual British people. Like we don't have any like Channing Tatum and like a.
There is one Irish man that I know of.
Cillian is Irish, or
it's Killian, I think.
Oh.
Sorry.
He's killing a little kid.
That's a spoiler.
Saving that one. It's history, Mike.
It's history. No, so Killian, I'm pretty sure, is Irish, but also the kid that is.
They do have actual Irish and Scottish people.
But he's Irish too.
Who? George?
Is that his name?
The kid, the character's name is George. The little kid is
the cute
Barry
so
Keoghan, I think.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's Irish.
There's no running from this, son.
I can be useful.
Oh,
he's so precious.
But how did you? There were all the different ways that this movie was displayed, which had a large part in how
I was planning on seeing it in IMAX 70mm in the city, and then my transmission broke down for the live episode, and it's going to cost me over $4,000.
Oh,
so I went to see the
It's okay to cry.
IMAX matinee for like $10.
We did the same just because I don't want to spend
but we also drove like
$40+
we drove like 30 minutes, over 30 minutes.
That's the closest IMAX for you guys?
No, it's just the one that was
Regal.
cheapest.
Well,
sorry.
Okay.
I didn't pay for it. Okay.
Yeah. You can pay for your own movie next time. Yeah, $40+ because I don't want to pay $20+ per person, and I was taking somebody. This one over here.
Okay.
But no, Regal for just plain IMAX viewings costs $20.
This one in AMC.
Yeah.
We went to AMC,
we specifically seeked out AMC to go see for $10. For half the price.
You saw like the matinee, or
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We went at 11.
And so fucking what the fuck, Regal? Because also I'm like
Does it
cost that
close
much
this
more?
podcast down.
Okay,
Don't fuck with Regal.
There was 2 different options in my mind. It was we're gonna go see it for $10 a piece at IMAX matinee, or we're just gonna go see it for fucking IMAX 70mm, which is also $20, and not just.
Oh yeah, because you had that at King of Prussia.
Yeah, we could have just seen it in the best format ever instead of just seeing.
Didn't we?
Because it cost fucking $40+. I mean, I'm just, well, if you wanted to pay for it, you could have.
Damn, now we getting financial over here. Now you can donate to. Do you have?
Sabrie wants to see Harry in IMAX 70mm.
I don't think Sabrie really cared about like what format it was.
No, I had to see it in at least IMAX. Like I wasn't gonna see it in the regular standard thing.
And Mike was originally just talking about seeing it in just 70mm, and I think Jordan and I yelled at him to a point where Mike was like, guys, leave me alone. No, it's not. He shot it in IMAX, Mike. Go see it in IMAX.
I don't understand
Well, I still think
things. So like to me, it's like
I'm glad that I saw it in IMAX, even if it wasn't IMAX 70 or just 70mm.
You're right.
Just because I didn't really realize until seeing it how big the sound is in this movie.
yes, that is the biggest
and how
part of the
important
movie.
that is.
I literally tell everyone that's.
And I still think there was some cropping seeing it just in regular IMAX as opposed to IMAX 70mm.
I don't think
Just
that's
'cause it was
accurate. I just don't think it's on as big of a screen. If you look at, there's like a graph
I think the
chart
screen that I saw it on was cropped a little
Could-
bit. I don't
okay.
think it was portrayed in probably the right possible format, because the IMAX 70mm is more of a square looking format. Like you have more room on the top and bottom.
How did you see it? Wait,
I saw it in regular IMAX, which is supposed to be closer to the IMAX 70mm,
right?
Because they have the bigger
it's just
screen.
IMAX.
But
I don't think there's
it
any
was- it was
difference.
more-
I don't think there's any ratio difference. I just think it's
I
quality
don't think they're supposed to be,
difference.
but I think the way it was portrayed
There
on the screen
Gotcha.
that I think they were trying to fill as much of the left and right, and they weren't paying attention to.
Fucking AMC.
I don't know if it was erroneous or if that's just intentionally how AMC decided to screen it in IMAX. But it wasn't like a very square looking ratio. It was
So
more
now we're
a
gonna have
regular.
to see it
It looked
in
like just a regular
70mm
widescreen.
anyway.
But every other IMAX experience I've ever had watching a movie is like, it'll be in like a smaller aspect ratio, and then like watching it like when like a big set piece comes up, it'll expand into IMAX. I know that's how all of other like Christopher Nolan's movies have been in IMAX.
Oh, really?
Yeah, this is
That's weird.
this is one of the first movies to be like a majority of it is shot in IMAX. I think 70% of this is shot in IMAX. Usually it'll be like, and then it'll expand
That's
like
fucking
when
weird.
it shoot,
That,
yeah,
like,
when it cuts into different scenes.
I honestly don't
Well-
know if I've ever seen anything in IMAX before.
Right. Well, not a lot of people are shooting on IMAX film as much as Christopher Nolan is. It's often people are just taking advantage of that audio.
Usually, I
kind of
only
thing.
see IMAX if I'm doing like IMAX 3D. Otherwise, I just usually see the regular digital
Yeah.
for stuff.
Yeah.
I think I even ever, when I was talking to Mike and I was trying to convince him to see it in IMAX, I was like, this is the first movie ever shot entirely in IMAX. But that's not true, because every once in a while they'd just like cut to like a Mark Rylance scene and it was like, and I was kind of like, what? Like
I can
guess-
imagine it's harder to fit
I
like
like-
all the IMAX stuff on
Yeah,
like a
oh,
small
definitely.
boat like that. Yeah.
I didn't know.
I think they had to have run into. I definitely think they wanted to make it all IMAX, and then they were like, "This is like a tiny boat. We can't do this because the IMAX camera is impossibly heavy. It's gigantic. It's fucking gargantuan, and yeah, and that boat looks very tight corner. Like they couldn't have gotten the shots that they did.
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, it was, but I don't know. I'll get into the problems I have with the editing of this movie. It's kind of a headache, but
I had no problems.
but
Do you want me to get my
oh
fingers
no,
now?
definitely. But sometimes they would switch between. Usually, how I was talking about it, it's not always like we're about to enter a big set piece. It's kind of like the next scene will just be bigger. In this one, they have scenes where it's like, whoop, 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 whoop,
I
and they're
did
like cutting
not-
between that, and it's kind of like, what the fuck are you guys doing? Kind of.
Really?
There's a lot of like jarring cuts,
That is
and
like-
it's not even scene to scene; it's shot to shot, and it was.
I'll
Kind
be
of
honest,
very,
I do not notice a lot of that stuff all the time.
Same.
There was another movie that you were talking about that with where I was like, Krisha. Is it Krisha the one where they I was like, I did
There's
not.
3 different aspect ratios.
I think I
for
just
different
focus so
moods.
much on like the center of the screen that I the edges, like whenever it's letterbox, I just completely
Right.
my mind ignores that data. So then when it switches, I'm just kind of like, I did not even register with me until someone said something about Krisha
Right.
switching formats.
But I gotta say, it's the finest, fucking, most intense, most immersive IMAX experience I've ever had.
I had so much fucking anxiety throughout the whole thing. Also, the guy next to me was super weird. He was like, kind of freaked me out. We had like reclining
Big
chairs.
Harry Styles fan.
No, he was like just super weird. He was like eating nachos and he was like telling his friend, like they got there during the previews. He's like, we just like can't sit here. It's like too intimate. Like, and then he like threw a straw and I was just like, oh Jesus. And but then like I had so much anxiety throughout the whole thing. Like I was just like twiddling my fingers and it, like you said, Mike, it was like so like sound. And it was just like so sensory overload like the entire time for me that I was just like, I feel like I'm there. I want to go. But I loved it.
I have seen headlines with like Christopher Nolan sort of like trashing like Netflix lately on like the press circuit or like junket interviews where he's like, I can't believe they fucking like released like movies like Okja or whatever, even though I think that did have like a screening premiere on a movie theater and it was at Cannes or whatever too. He's like, I can't believe they premiere movies like that on like a fucking cell phone or an iPad or something. Like that's just so bizarre to me. And I think I was making fun of this in Squad, like our group chat. And I posted like that one meme from like Tumblr and it was like, herder, like technology is bad, fire is scary, Thomas Edison is a witch. Like you ever see
like
that
that
meme?
SpongeBob one?
And no, it's just like it's like
Older guy.
It's written in like Comic Sans on like a T-shirt model or something. It's really funny. But and I did that before I actually saw this movie. But this movie's like the ultimate argument for like, fuck man, like I can't imagine
Did Christopher
somebody
Nolan speak about Okja specifically?
No,
or
no.
just because did you guys watch Okja
No.
yet? Fucking, it suffers from being on a small screen. Like it should have been.
But doesn't
on bigger-
everything? That's
But
my
I
thing.
also
It's like
think this
I
is the
fucking
progression.
love
I
of
think there are some movies that are
technology.
like, I think comedies and stuff like that are fine to just watch on like the small
Right,
screen.
yeah,
But like Okja,
okay.
like is a pretty beautiful looking movie, and like it is kind of like it has sort of a grandeur to it, and it suffers from being on the small screen.
I feel like I
with
use
small
that
audio,
as an
like-
example because I kind of couldn't believe myself that was being released
Did
on
you
a,
wa-
on a
you didn't
small
watch it
screen.
yet,
I
or-
haven't watched it, but I mean, it still makes Nolan sound like some weird, like old man film conservative, where
But
he's
also
like,
like
film should only be in theaters.
no,
you know, like,
I.
shut up, Christopher.
I think
3 of your movies are on Netflix.
But now he didn't like premiere them
Right,
on
yeah,
Netflix,
exactly.
So that's
I
the
understand
difference.
that, yeah.
Like, but also like I think I've only seen. I think I might have seen The Dark Knight. Mm-hmm. That's the only other Christopher Nolan movie I've seen.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't see Inception or Interstellar?
There's so fucking long.
They are very long.
I like was like, oh, Dunkirk. Like, why is it not an hour and a half? Like Trolls. Come on.
This is very long too, but I have to
This
say, it
is
doesn't,
like
it
an
doesn't,
hour and a half,
it doesn't,
isn't it? Like it's an hour and 40 something minutes.
Yeah, that's longer than an hour and a half, is it not? No, just ginger. No, I'm just kidding.
But I mean, let's talk about the structure of this movie, because that's
Okay.
one of the first things we see. Christopher Nolan also said in an interview where he wanted to create like a subjective. That's what I do a lot when I talk. I kind of motion with my hands. He wanted to create a subjective experience as opposed to like a conventional war film. Obviously,
Yes.
this is very different from.
I mean, I've seen a lot of interviews, so I can talk about some stuff.
There's
know things.
never any like exposition cutaways. Yeah, like Mike was saying, of like, you know, generals sitting around like a war room or whatever.
There's no flashbacks. There's no.
They're actually.
But there is. We follow like. Go on. What were you gonna say?
Well, okay, so maybe like it was just me. Mm-hmm. But I feel like there was kind of one flashback, but I don't want to get into it just yet.
Are you thinking about
Do
when
tell.
they see Cillian Murphy?
Yes.
That's not a flashback. That's just the timelines intersecting in a
See,
weird way.
that's what it is.
This editing is problematic, I think. I think
disagree. But
editing
go
in this
on.
movie. Okay.
But I was able to
So again,
catch on.
So
it was just
I'm gonna argue this the
I
entire
see
time.
what you're saying. I don't think the editing is a problem. But go on. Yes.
I think editing has been a problem in Christopher Nolan's films for a while.
Calling him out.
Heavily
I think
disagree.
I think
Editing makes his fucking movies.
Well, here's the thing. Something like Inception was a story written around his editing, the way that his editor edits.
His style is to have that third act climax where there's multiple things going on at the same time, and we cut away to all of them like really quickly,
Right.
Not necessarily non-linearly, but usually it's all happening at the same time, and we get a little bit of this scene, we get a little bit of this scene, a little bit of this scene, and they're all happening at the same time. It's very similar to a Star Wars climax in that way.
Never seen Star Wars, so.
And I actually have Star Wars as an
Don't
example
understand
later in this. So again, we're following 3 stories by land, by sea, and by air. And each one of these covers.
But the land is called the
Mall.
Right. Yeah, and each one of these covers a different period of time. But yes,
Yeah.
Paul did send us that article where the mole is what they refer to as like a jetty, kind of.
But I feel like I already knew that.
I don't know. I read that article, but can't imagine being confused.
I wasn't confused by that either.
Yeah.
I
assumed the mole was just something I didn't, especially because that's the first one, so you don't know like the theme of like the mole, the sea, the air.
Right.
Especially if you're familiar with.
I thought it was just that specific geographic thing. I thought it was the beach or something.
This premise too. You're not like there's no like insider like I don't know. Even though later there is evidence that it's kind of like, oh, this person is not who they say they are, kind of, and it does happen in the mole scenario.
Harry gets real.
And Harry's a dickhead to him.
I know. I've never been so upset. Okay.
But we have the mole, the boat, and the plane. And the mole is 1 week, the boat is 1 day, and the plane is 1 hour.
Yes.
And this is where I first got confused by this movie. It's I kind of thought it was explanatory text to like a big event, and it's not so much a big event, or it's not so much like T-minus as it is like denoting the amount of time
I agree.
that a plot line lasts. And I was kind of like, what the fuck?
But I don't think that's. I think that's a conceptual problem.
Yeah,
not
because
really a problem
I
with the
feel like
editing.
I understood that the whole time. Of like, okay, they've been on here for a week. Mm-hmm. They're like on the boat for.
I thought it was
They don't. I would have liked one more line of kind of like, this is how long each plot line lasts, or something.
He already had so many words in the beginning.
Which again, that didn't
also
really.
All right, you guys need to. I usually show up 15 minutes late to every AMC movie because that's how long their trailers last. I guess because
you want to talk about the fucking trailers? They were terrible.
I didn't see any because I showed up late to the movie even though I was on time for my normal AMC standards.
Right.
I guess because this is such a long movie, they were trying to get it really in there. So what do I miss in the first 2 minutes? I walked in when it's literally I walked in the shot that I always remember from the trailer where it's just the one guy running down the street.
So
and then he's like, I'm British, and they let him over and they're like, Bon voyage.
That's basically what it is.
That's basically the beginning.
Is there anything before that?
There's like 4 people getting killed before that.
Yeah,
because they're scavenging the town, and then the Nazis see them.
Did you see the flyers falling down? Okay, so there's like
a really
I literally walked in on the shot of him.
Okay, but that's
running.
like literally you miss like a minute.
Okay.
Like there's like flyers falling down, and it's like we surround you. Mm-hmm. Talking about like Dunkirk.
And they're scavenging the town for anything useful, and the Germans have a bunch of barricades set up, and they kill the other 4 people that he's like scavenging the town with, basically. And then you think he's about to be shot, but it's by his like own men.
Luckily, it's still such a fucking like brilliant script where like even missing that first minute in the title card. You can gain enough from context where like, especially like the scene where he's like, I'm British, they let him over, but then as he's running by, they're like, fucking bon voyage, motherfucker. Like, so you get that like, oh, like the French are mad because he's British and he's getting to leave this kind of shitty situation.
But I again, really quick on the whole kind of this plot line lasts this amount of time.
It is confusing at first.
I think one more line of explanatory text could have done wonders. I think the movie itself, or the way that the film is cut, only makes this unique narrative even more unintelligible at times.
They could have done something like in terms of rather, because when they said like 1 week, 1 day, 1 hour, at the very beginning of the movie, I'm like, okay, is that how far away they are from home, or how far they are away from? I didn't realize that
was a countdown to a big event.
I didn't realize that was how long it was going to take for that storyline to play out.
But
so
that's why you have to watch the movie and then you find that out.
Right, and I think it pays off at the end, but I think a way to get around that is rather than saying 1 week, say June whatever to
like a date.
whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Just show the date so that we know, okay, this is the amount of time that we're watching this storyline take place. It's less cool. It's very cool to just say the mole 1 week.
Right.
It looks cooler.
It's a better aesthetic.
And I'll forgive it because in the end, I really fucking love the way that these storylines intersect these different amount of time playing out. I think is really cool. But I do think the smarter mass audience better decision is to clearly explain like what amount of time are we seeing from what date to what date, so that we know that it's not just a countdown or how far are they from the shore, or how far are they from England or France or whatever. This is just the amount of time that you're seeing this play out. But for
me, I feel like that adds to like just kind of like the mystery and anxiety of it all, of like you don't know,
having to figure it all out.
Yeah, because it's like,
but I can't imagine that's his intention, because he's writing about, like, he's a British citizen writing about Dunkirk, so it's something that he's familiar with. Like us as like an American audience, like we're a little bit like in the dark about the entire thing.
True, but
and I don't think that's what he intended it to be.
But
like.
even Harry Styles said he didn't know all about it.
Well, he didn't pay attention enough in school.
Well, because he was in One Direction at that
time. He missed all of his classes while he was like touring the world as like a 14-year-old or something.
No, he was 16.
16-year-old.
Pre-pubescent. Old post-pubescent.
Yeah.
Adolescent.
It took me like 3/4 of the movie to figure out the exact plot structure, and I don't know if that makes me stupid or it's a little disorienting. Even
once I figured out, like, okay, this is a week, this is a day, this is an hour, and they're all going to kind of converge at the end. There were other things that I thought weren't the smartest way they could have done it, and particularly I thought they could have done more to really differentiate the boats that were used in this movie, because I think they showed the name of like the one boat at one point that leaves, the one that Mark Rylance and George, rest in peace, are on. But then when on the mole storyline, when Harry and Fionn Whitehead and whatever, they go to the one abandoned boat that's there, I thought that was the boat from the sea storyline. And I thought that was kind of like the catch to this movie was like, there's these intersecting storylines and we're going to kind of spoil something. So the entire time I was waiting for the sea storyline to have that boat crash and either the Germans kill them or them get captured or them abandon that boat or something.
Right.
Because they had all these lines too that were like, oh, like, yeah, whoever had this boat probably abandoned it or something. And I was like, oh, they're fucking talking about Mark Rylance and his family. So we're kind of getting like a little hint of like what's going to play out in that storyline.
I didn't fucking catch
on to that. And I did think that was
part.
kind of cool at the time, but it also confused me.
See, I didn't even.
See, that's why.
Wait, who's
like,
Mark Rylance?
He's the
old guy.
There's no hiding from this.
Dunkirk.
Dunkirk. He's
the captain of the boat.
He's captain.
The citizen man.
Yeah, Captain Daddy.
Wait.
The three of them looked like they walked out of an LL Bean catalog. Like
they did.
Perfectly slicked hair. Like, I mean,
and those boys hot.
Yeah.
Peter? Or?
These boys hot. Yeah. You guys remember that Vine?
I don't. Yeah, and see, no. I mean, from your thought process, I have a very similar thought process where like the plot lines do cross over eventually, but there's no real reveal of why it's ever structured this way, kind of. And like something like Memento, and I mean, like I talked about Inception before, like something like Memento has a very unique plot structure that pays off and is both like a product of like the main character or protagonist having the what is it, like antegrade amnesia or whatever, like he can't retain new memories.
I haven't actually seen Memento.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's.
I know what it's about, but yeah.
Okay, yeah, or whatever.
They put it on Netflix, so now it's on my list to watch soon.
Yeah, that's just like my favorite Christopher Nolan movie, but it's just kind of like that makes sense.
Dunkirk isn't.
This doesn't really ever pay off the plot structure. I'm just kind of like,
I disagree.
Okay.
I think it hurts the first 2/3 of the movie. I think the fucking climax, when all these plot lines intersect and they're happening at the same time, makes for a really fucking awesome movie experience.
It's gonna make me cry. So, like, even thinking about it, I'm like, oh no.
It is, because like, and there's just like some little things that are cool, like how in the Air storyline, which is happening over a very condensed period, just 1 hour,
yeah.
you see the other pilot go down and his plane crashes, and you sort of know that he's okay because what's his face like salutes to him as he's flying off, and then you get to actually see the boat catch up to him.
But then it's also
it's
is he
just
saluting?
very cool. It's kind of like you feel like you're getting in on something when like the storylines intersect, and you're like, you weren't expecting these characters to meet at all. They seemed like they were just very separate, isolated storylines.
Right.
Or like when you see Cillian Murphy, which you thought was a flashback.
Right.
When he intersect, like we know what happens to him eventually because it's the shorter storyline of a day.
Right. Yeah.
But when we see him earlier in that week turning down Fionn Whitehead and Harry
Harry.
Styles from getting on the boat, like stuff like that.
You,
it just feels cool. It feels like a departure from the non-linear storyline.
Yes.
It's something that like I was worried about going into this movie, where I was like, Christopher Nolan likes to have these twists, or like just sort of like not like a catch, but like, what's the thing with this movie?
Right.
What makes this movie different?
Right.
And I just thought this was going to be a regular war movie because they don't explain in the trailer there's going to be these intersecting different temporal storylines. So I thought that was cool the way they intersected.
Yes.
As much as I do agree that it is very confusing for the first like third, maybe just first straight up half of the movie, where you're kind of like, I'm following it. Everything I'm watching is really cool, but I don't know if I'm fully understanding it, and I'm waiting for the payoff later. And I think the difference is that I think that there is a payoff when they all intersect. I think the climax is like typical standard Christopher Nolan, like cutting between all these different things happening at the same time.
Right.
And it feels cooler in this movie because we've been sort of had like these different like rate of payoff for them, where like we've been waiting for a week of watching like Harry and Fionn Whitehead deal with trying to get off the beach, and then we've seen a whole day of kind of like more dramatic circumstances with the sea, and then we've seen this really stressful like hour with the Tom Hardy and the plane scenario. So I don't know, I thought that really worked and paid off for me and made it worth it.
I agree. Bye.
There
Wait.
is-
Let me say something just like before I forget.
Okay.
So one of the things that like in the interviews I watched of like, you know, Harry Styles, he was like talking about how
She's watched all of them.
I've watched many. They're on my watch later on YouTube, so I can watch them again. But like they were talking about, or he was like talking about that there's just not like a lot of background history, and you kind of like don't know a lot of people's like the characters' names.
Right.
And
I didn't
like,
know a lot of them until I read the Wikipedia.
Right, but like, but the part of that is like, okay, it doesn't matter like what their background is, like, oh, he's like a boy from like whatever, and now he's going to war. It's like, this is like what's happening now, and this is like so fucking intense that like, I don't know. That's just my thing.
It's very different from other Christopher Nolan movies. This has been talked about ad nauseum, but just how little talking is in this movie. And I think it's good for a lot of it. Like, I like that we're just kind of seeing the emotions of these characters. But I feel like in the very beginning, and this is partially just because I walked in late, and I'm trying to gather as much information from context as possible. Right. Like, I walk in and like the only line I hear is like, I'm British, bon voyage. And then there's no lines for like
what the fuck?
5 minutes after that. And I'm like, I sort of figured out, I'm like, he's trying to get off France.
Right.
Obviously probably trying to go back to like Great Britain and whatever, but like I don't really know like who he is, like what he went through before that, and then the whole scene with like Gibson especially. Again, I don't know his name until I read Wikipedia later on.
Oh wait, is he the one that was like
burying the guy
and like taking clothes and
also,
like his uniform?
Poor this guy Tommy or whatever his name is, who tries to take a shit in the beginning of the movie and then never gets to take a shit for a week. It's the one casualty of this editing is that we see him trying to take a shit, get interrupted, and then we never get to see him actually.
Because that is the worst.
For a week.
Oh shit, that is so true. I forgot about that he had to poop.
But Christopher Nolan is definitely using like, I like that though. He's using like these circumstances that the characters are in to create like empathy and sympathy instead of dialogue.
Yes.
Again, I never ended up, I really wanted to see it before seeing this movie, Interstellar, but Dan Martin never uploaded it to Google Drive for me.
And also,
I'm
it
kidding.
sounds boring. Sorry.
No, see, I
It's
think
my favorite Christopher Nolan
yeah,
movie.
no, I think I'd really, really enjoy it.
Wait, isn't that where just like is that Matthew McConaughey?
Yeah.
He's
And
good.
Sandra Bullock?
Yeah.
No, that's Gravity.
Oh.
Anne Hathaway.
In Hathaway, yeah.
Oh,
but the
that's even
only
worse.
thing I've
No, just-
really, I mean, I've heard you guys praise it, but I've also heard people talk about how the dialogue in that film is pretty rough and it's pretty expository. And I almost feel like this film
I
is
will
a
argue against it.
I feel like this film is like an argument.
Check out my
Yeah.
episode on the O Word podcast because we talked about this sort of in depth.
Oh, that means you haven't even listened. Shit.
I have listened.
That's probably why he's
Yeah.
bringing it up.
Well, no, yeah.
Sorry, I haven't listened.
It is, but I defend it because I think Interstellar is the type of movie where you're aiming for mass audience appeal, and like not everyone is fucking up to speed on like what happens when you go into a black hole. Like even
Right.
me, like someone I consider myself to be a pretty fucking smart dude.
But what happens?
I don't know everything about what happens, like
Do
relativity.
people really know what happens when you go into a black hole?
I mean, they theorize about it.
You're right,
and
yeah.
also, the other cool thing about Interstellar is that they found stuff out about black holes while making the movie because of
Whoa, really?
they were asking like astrophysicists questions and they kind of did more research about how to visualize a black hole and then they ended up discovering stuff about black holes. I don't know exactly what they knew because
Oh
I
my
don't
God.
smart enough to understand that, but they discovered stuff through making Interstellar by asking these questions about
Can I
But
say
I
something?
almost feel like some of the complaints about Interstellar and the dialogue kind of maybe this is slightly response to kind of like critics in a way where
think,
this is only like a 30-page script, and I mean the dialogue could be written on like 3 or 5 pages.
I don't think Christopher Nolan really cares
Right,
about
yeah.
critics. He's never been one that's even like released in a way that like puts himself in a decent like Oscar position.
Right.
I think this is just kind of like, I think in those movies he knew what type of movie he was making. Interstellar
Okay.
was
Yeah, that's fair, yeah.
a very smart but a blockbuster movie. We had Matthew McConaughey, we had Anne Hathaway, we had all these fucking big selling names in it, and we were advertised in a way that we were trying to put asses in the seats. So
Right.
you have to make a movie that everyone can understand, especially coming off of The Dark Knight, or I guess that was before The Dark Knight Rises. Or am I wrong? No.
Interstellar? It
That was after.
It was Dark Knight trilogy, Inception, then Interstellar.
Dark Knight, Inception, Dark Knight Rises, Interstellar.
Really?
I think Inception was in the middle.
Wait,
yeah.
Inception
When did
happened between the
Oh,
Batman
wait.
so.
movies? I don't think so.
Oh, I
But,
keep getting
I mean, you might be
Interstellar and
right.
Inception confused, and it's
Hold on, let's look this up because it's
making me.
I don't.
important.
Yeah, I don't think. I think he did the last two Batman movies back.
I
to
think
back.
I'm right because
Yeah, no,
All right.
you are right. You are right.
Okay.
You are right.
Can
I remember
I-
it being weird when I
Because
saw Inception. Or
He saw
Inception.
because he did the Prestige right after Batman, Begins,
Yeah.
which I didn't know that either.
Yeah, it wasn't like your typical like
Trilogy,
superhero movie where
yeah.
it's like 2017, 2018, 2019. Like we're putting these out as fast as possible. Like he made Batman Begins. It did well, so they wanted a sequel, but he was already working on something else at that point, and then whatever.
Okay, just before we move on, something that relates Harry Styles to space.
Just to bring Harry Styles back into this
yeah,
conversation.
but back to like Interstellar.
Be right back. And we're back.
Well, that's what I was doing. I was like, and we're tying it all.
So what were you gonna say before we before the
okay.
GoPro
rudely
graciously-
overheated.
yeah.
So I was gonna say that like, hold on, let me redrive it again. Okay.
She
I'm surprised.
couldn't
I'm surprised it's not a Harry Styles journal. that she's
She
writing.
I have
couldn't-
one.
she couldn't remember, so we told her to write
Yeah,
it down.
yeah.
The thought.
But-
And so, what did you write down?
So I wrote One Direction went to ASAP. But what I meant to write is One Direction went to NASA because they filmed one of their music videos there. Mm-hmm. And that's like space.
Okay.
So
So that's why Christopher
Harry
Nolan cast.
Styles.
He saw that music video, when he was getting inspiration
Right,
for
right,
Interstellar
right.
and was like, I want to put that guy in one of my movies.
There is like
I
a
want to
whole
put that.
big
I
spiel
want to put him in this movie.
with like Christopher Nolan, where he's like, I didn't know he was in a boy band. He just had like a great like.
Bullshit.
Yeah, no, and I feel like it's kind of even.
But he
more...
always has like a weird like smirk when he says it. I'm like, fuck you. Yeah.
feel-
Everyone knows who Harry Styles is.
But-
Fuck you.
I feel
Does
like
he not have daughters?
No, but he says until like my daughter, like my 13-year-old daughter said something or.
But like I feel like that can't be true because of the way, again, this format. We have like Oscar winner Mark Rylance, we have Tom Hardy in like the other scene, and then we have like Harry and
like
this,
Cillian
like-
Murphy, who's like in shit.
Right, but
He's-
I'm
yeah,
just
he's
talking about like somebody major in each plot. Like they
Cillian
wouldn't
Murphy
just
is
have,
major.
but no, but I'm talking about the mole. Like
Sorry, oh.
they don't have like they need like
I
star
don't know
power.
the actors'
Well,
names.
they have Kenneth Branagh in The Mall.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
But he's not the main. I see what you're saying, but yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I think what he was trying to get across was getting like
He had a great
young
interview
young
with him,
actors
yeah.
who
and
appeared
that have
young.
like never acted before, kind of.
Yeah, because
like,
Fionn Whitehead has not. He did
Yeah,
like the
he's
one
never-
UK show. I forget what it was called. Before this, he did like a TV show.
Ooh, can I say something that
No.
I just remembered? Sorry, and then I won't talk for at least 2 minutes. Okay, but I just read something on. I sent you like a screenshot from like Tumblr, and then I did look it up, so I think it's actually true. But it's like Harry Styles is the first person to have like a #1 single, a #1 album, and a #1 movie
All at the same time.
all at the same time.
Because
He has a
Harry's
#1
new.
single at the same time.
I don't know. That's what the
I feel
Tumblr
like,
said.
I feel like that's
Yeah,
not
I feel
true.
like that single came
Maybe
out a
it's
long time ago.
No. Well, no, he's had another single since.
But was that #1 single?
I don't fucking
feel
know.
like
I
haven't
didn't like
heard that
do
on the
so much
radio.
research.
Maybe in the same year, or
I don't know.
Yeah.
Y'all fucking go to Tumblr.
unless people saw Dunkirk and were like, I gotta go fucking listen to Harry Styles.
No, but I Okay. No, but that was something that Tumblr told me. And then I like went to it was an E-News article. So that
They're
means
reliable.
It could be
it's
true. I don't know what's #1
I'm
Okay.
sure there's
at all on
Y'all
music
talk,
right
I'll
now.
find it.
No, but I'm
So,
sure.
so what was it? It was #1 Billboard,
I- hold
#1
on, let me-
movie, and #1 what?
I don't know.
I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure there's a first time for everything. Kind of. It's kind of like you can kind of skew everything into like, well, during this week of this month, like, there's never this occurrence has never happened before.
They do that in
Yeah.
fucking sports all the time now. Now that we have like sabermetrics and we can just like track all these stats about everything, and they're like,
Every
oh,
game
this
is the first time.
This is
something's
the
happened.
first time
Yeah.
that someone like proposed to his wife before a game. Like it's just like it's
before a successful kickoff on the opposing team.
Okay, I'm just saying that's really cool. It's what is that like thing that's like you get an Oscar and a Grammy and an Emmy and something a Tony. How do you say that? Acronym.
An EGOT.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, let's get back to the movie.
Sorry.
The one
care
scene
about
that
the
I really like loved like right from the beginning was like it was just like really great like bravura of just like two soldiers like carrying the wounded soldier to a boat.
It's on Tumblr, so it's official.
It's gotta
Everybody
be
is
true.
following it.
It's linked.
Harry Styles makes history as first artist to have debut. Oh, so it's his debut.
debut.
His debut film, his debut album, and his debut film, album. So just two. His debut film, Dunkirk, opened #1,
Sorry.
and his debut album opened *1. That makes sense.
So I wasn't.
In the-
I feel like I was just
Same.
reading about someone that had like a #1 movie and song and something at
Yeah, it
the
was
same
Harry
time.
Styles.
But at the same time, like they were all.
Probably Adele.
Can you imagine if like Christopher Nolan used like a Harry Styles single in like the credits
Trailer.
or something?
Okay,
That would
I don't
be
watch Game of
so
Thrones, but that's very like
bad.
Game of Thrones Ed Sheeran. Am I wrong? Because he's saying "Shape of You" in that, right? No, I'm just kidding.
He might as well have. He sang in it, and it was so like, oh, okay.
I mean,
like
I
we know this is
fucking-
a singer. Why couldn't he just do an acting scene?
I like
Yeah.
love Ed Sheeran, but also that's fucking.
It was dumb.
He's also in that. He's also in a movie, and he like plays in a festival.
I fucking
Bridget
hate,
Jones's Baby. Sorry.
I
Okay.
fucking hate when musicians, and this is a credit to Harry. I hate when musicians go into movies, but they only play roles as musicians,
like Justin Timberlake,
or
where he
as
just
themselves.
sings.
Although Justin Timberlake has done roles where he's just himself, like Alpha Dog.
He's also in
not
Trolls
himself,
where he
just
sings.
a character that has nothing to do.
Justin Timberlake and Alpha Dog.
He's not just.
Okay.
But that's a credit to Harry Styles in this because there's no part that's like,
No.
oh, because he's the lead singer of One Direction, he could handle this part.
Sorry, there's no lead singers there.
Mm-hmm. Harry's the lead.
Okay.
To us on the outside, Harry is definitely the lead. He's the only name we can remember.
Also Zayn.
It's cool that he's, or I guess more respectable that he's not like.
Because it's like he's like kind of to like.
They could have very easily had a scene where it's like, oh, and then Harry's character, he's just humming to himself or singing, and then like everyone would have been like, oh, Harry Styles like singing. It's cool that they didn't do any of that kind of like fan servicey, like, oh, wink wink, like that's what Ed Sheeran's role in Game of Thrones. That's what made it so made me sick to my stomach watching it, was because it was like he's singing and it's like he's got this great voice, and it's like
out of like what
it does, because you're thinking
happening.
about how great is this voice. It's fantastic. Like it would have been better to have someone with a
like
shitty
cool.
voice.
I
in
bought
that
his
role.
album, but I'm not trying to watch Game of Thrones because he's in it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But yeah.
Sorry.
And we can talk about maybe Harry's performance in this. Sorry.
Did you say we can't talk about
We
it?
can. No,
Oh,
we can.
okay. Good.
We can never.
was
We
like,
can never speak of
mean-
Harry's performance
Spoken
again.
of again.
What'd you? Okay. Before I say anything, what'd y'all think?
I don't think anyone's fantastic in this movie, and that's not against this movie at all. I don't think it's the type of movie that allows for like breakout roles or like
I don't think we're gonna see like
standout
any
performances.
acting like Oscar
No, I don't think anyone will be
nominations in this
nominated
movie.
for this.
I
He was
thought
better than I expected him to be.
Yeah. Knowing who he was, right? Like, yeah.
Expect like just
You
seeing his
expected
interviews.
him to be in like fucking iCarly.
He wasn't even good at iCarly. Like,
Well,
they could
yeah.
barely act as themselves
No,
in
exactly.
iCarly. And
He had like a relationship arc with Miranda Cross-Craven.
Because he was like sick or something.
Yeah, he was like, oh, I'll go to pretend that I'm sick because then our Carly will pay attention to me.
Sugar me chicken noodle soup.
Yeah.
Please don't hurt my feelings.
I think he's okay in this.
yeah.
I was kind of surprised that he had the most dialogue of anyone in this
And he
fucking
said
movie.
the two fuck words.
Mm-hmm.
He said the only two
Both
fucks.
fuck words. There was
I
only
remember.
2 fuck words
He had the
in
two fucks.
PG-13 movie.
And he said both.
Are they allowed two in a PG-13?
Yeah, and he got
that's the
both of
limit,
them.
yeah.
I thought there were one that they were allowed.
Well, you know, it's like the millennials. Now we have
Now
two.
we're allowed to have
The
two.
millennials.
We can handle two.
I thought he was all right. I'm by no means like, oh, like let's give Harry like a fucking Oscar, but I was kind of pleasantly surprised that he didn't destroy this movie like I kind of
Like Ed Sheeran did with Game of
like I
Thrones.
kind of thought he was going to.
Okay.
Just having never seen him in anything before,
no.
besides iCarly, and him kind of like being bad in iCarly. Like
Well,
I think
and just being like a goofy, like he's like goofy on stage when he like performs. Because I would know.
Or
Seen it
just
4
he's
times.
just he really blends in where a lot of people that saw the movie have no idea who he was.
Well,
kind
that's
of.
what I was gonna
And
say,
it was
is that,
just
like-
kind of like and
it wasn't the role that you would like be like, oh, that's a role for like Harry.
It's
Like
just-
I feel like
he wasn't
Will
like a
Smith,
cameo.
Will Smith
He
and other
wasn't- yeah.
actors or musicians like that ended up transitioning to film or TV or whatever. Like they were first placed in roles where you're like, oh yeah, like Will Smith could definitely handle that. Like you would not look at Harry Styles and be like, yeah, he can be in this serious Christopher Nolan
Right.
Dunkirk movie
Right.
about
And he
like one of the
doesn't
more
even
important
sing.
battles in like British history. Like
Right.
and there's no singing. And like he's not even like a really likable character because he's
Oh
a
my
very
God,
likable.
He's such a fucking douche, and I was so
He's a very
upset.
likable guy. He's not playing to like the Harry Styles strengths.
No.
So that speaks to he probably had a pretty good audition in front of Christopher Nolan
Yeah.
to be cast in this. Like,
But then I'm like,
thought,
is he
like,
really
that-
mean in real life?
I
can't.
thought his mean stuff was his weaker stuff.
Yes.
I really
Really?
Yeah, I mean like when like he's supernatural
He's good.
on the beach and he's supernatural when he's eating like toast and jam or he's like
He's
struggling,
good.
but when he starts to be mean I'm kind of like
But here's
he's
the
good
thing.
as like the confident kind of soldier.
Yeah,
That's because the rest of them are like shy and nervous as shit.
you're right, yeah.
And then he's just kind of the one that's like, yeah, like why are we not talking? Like you guys don't fucking talk a whole lot. Like he's very natural.
But
in
here's
that
the thing
role.
to me
He's not
is
able
that,
to go like full-fledged bully kind of.
But regardless of like Harry, like just like Harry Styles, because for me, I was like obviously very aware it was Harry Styles in the movie.
Right.
So it was like hard, I think, for me to be like, ooh, oh, it's just like a movie. I'm like, no, it's fucking my
It's a
baby.
One Direction event.
I'm like, oh, my baby, come here. Come to mama. But, oh shit, what was I gonna say? Yeah, it's gone. All right. Bye.
I think it would have just been like
Continue.
a cleaner decision to be like, let one of like the Scottish guys in that boat like be the one that, because they were kind of more of the aggressors, and then he kind of just has like his one like scene where he's like holding the Gibson guy and he's sticking like the gun in him, and it almost comes out of character for his character in this movie.
But then even when he's on like, am I gonna spoil something? I don't know.
We're very late.
It's
okay.
like near the end of the
Okay,
review.
so
Spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. We don't talk much about this movie. We've just kind of been talking in circles about Harry stuff.
I mean, what did you expect?
Yeah.
Honestly. No. But when he's like at the very end, like he's on the like train.
Yeah.
I still thought he was a douche. Like, I don't feel like that isolated incident of him being like...
I don't think he was a douche on the train.
What?
I thought he was just a normal person reacting to the...
I felt so awkward
Why?
for that whole time because I thought he was an asshole.
What was he doing that made him an asshole?
Just being rude.
He wasn't rude. He was like,
Yeah,
he was worried about the reception they were going to get when they got back home, because they all thought that they had, like, he
Failed
even
their
says
elders,
right when they get
kind
on the
of,
boat, he's like, we really let you guys down, didn't we? And they kind of even don't say anything. They don't say like, oh, you guys are heroes. And it's not until they arrive back at the train station that people are like handing them beers, and they're like, oh, we're kind of like, people are just glad that we got home and we made it out of this like shitty situation. Like, nobody thinks that we failed standing up to fucking Hitler in World War II.
Yeah, no, and I definitely want to speak on like that point too, or that theme, because I think that's one of the most important themes. I feel like it says something on the trailer or something, or the poster of just something about survive or whatever. But I feel like we often champion like war heroes, or people who kill the most people or whatever, or even like
Chris Kyle.
Yeah. Like my kill counts like in the double digits kind of. And like people, like even people who are tortured, like POWs who are like in, like enemy prisons. But at the end of this movie, where all the soldiers, minus the fucking 100,000 that are dead, return home, and the people in the town are, the people of the home comes for them, essentially. And they get this transportation. They're handing them the beers, they're handing them dry blankets, hot tea, food. And then there's an old man who's kind of like congratulating everybody. And one of the boys, I don't remember if it is one of the characters or if it's just another guy. And he's congratulating all of them. And he says, like, for what? All we did was, like, survive. And
Harry. I think it's Harry that says it.
Oh, okay. And then...
Because he doesn't look... Yeah, go on. But he doesn't look at him.
Yeah.
And he's like, why didn't he look at us?
And then...
he couldn't even look us in the eyes,
Yeah.
what he says on the train.
Well, doesn't the old man responds with something really simple. I forget. It's like, well, that's good enough. Like, kind of like, it's very, like, there's...
because he says that to Harry. He has that interaction with Harry where he doesn't look at him,
right?
And he's kind of just looking down, and he's like, "That's good enough." Like, so Harry, when he gets on the train, is like, he couldn't even like fucking look us in the eyes. But then the Tommy character, when he's getting the blanket and whatever from him, the old man like touches his face, and then we get this kind of reveal of like, oh, he was blind.
See,
and then it's kind of this big reveal where on the train when they arrive in town, it's like, oh, like Britain was welcoming them home as like heroes. Like it wasn't like,
but see,
you
that's
failed
why I
us.
thought Harry was kind of an asshole.
But
he just didn't know.
You want recognition?
But there's,
I think he will.
Like, aren't you just happy that you're like fucking alive? Like after all of that, are you not like just in survival mode?
Well, no, because I think they were going home. Like they were retreating from this. They went into this war like, oh, we're gonna save France. We're gonna save the rest of Europe. We're gonna defeat this fucking horrible guy of. Oh, shit. Harry, are you okay?
Oh my god, I can't believe it. But then after like that week of like traumatic, like obviously none of us know what like war is like, and we never will know. Like, I don't even know. But, like...
Fingers crossed, Donald Trump.
But just, like, that, like, oh, like, you didn't recognize... I was like, are you fucking kidding? Like, you're alive and, like, you're, like, fucking, like, going home to your, like, fucking family on a train. Like, you are with, like, the people that you've been with for, like, most of this time.
I think back then it was a very big deal to, like, be perceived as
like a hero,
it
or
didn't-
like
not even to be a hero, but just not to be perceived as like a coward. Like they thought they were going home as like retreating cowards that were like, we failed, we couldn't liberate France, we're basically abandoning this mission of like, it would be like if like we pulled out of Afghanistan after like a couple of weeks
and we
we're
needed
like,
to be rescued by common citizens, really.
Yeah,
And
like people came to rescue soldiers.
That's pretty humiliating and bruising to a certain ego. But the point that I started out and I wanted to finish is that this movie is kind of anti-war in the sense that between that exchange, there is nobility in survival. You know, like survival is its own heroic act. And I mean,
absolutely,
it is contrasted with some actual heroic acts. Like, I really fucking hate the end of the Tom Hardy timeline.
oh,
I don't.
fuck you.
Dude,
When
no,
he,
no,
like,
wait.
lands?
Hold on.
Fuck you.
Dude, wait. Let me say my piece.
Okay.
God damn.
Well, see, it's super cinematic, but it doesn't make a lot of fucking sense, man.
I agree.
It's so okay. So
I feel like you should have just crashed in the ocean.
it would have
Right?
been
Like, I feel like that would-
well from okay,
Sorry.
but I think
Jesus.
basically the Tom Hardy's character is the most obvious noble person of this film. But what's it called? It was just problematic because like his plane runs out of fuel, right? And his propeller, stops spinning, which is an incredible like cinematic scene. I've never seen anything like that in a film, kind of where you see
the
like,
fucking scene where he's
imagery
just
like
flying
that.
Because they have
across.
a-
No, exactly.
And you can't, every other scene where they've really well established the fact that like when planes come across, it's fucking loud and everyone fucking looks because they all fucking duck to like avoid like the bombing, and then you just see this plane silently gliding across the beach. Go on.
They use like a lot of like real like other.
They're all
crashed
real
real
planes.
Yeah. Okay, just.
But
Same.
I mean, his propeller stops, and then he's able to fly over the beach this way. Like, okay, so he's able to cross over the beach, and then he's able, after his propeller is completely stopped, over the beach. Then he's able to turn around, and he's able to shoot down a larger aircraft, which is about to dive bomb everybody on the beach, and he's the hero. Which again, editing has totally fucked a lot of this movie for me, and. So then he's able to go like kind of like do like a whole spinning move while his propeller is not working, and then he's able to land on the beach after he's made a conscious decision of opening and then closing the winch. Like he has the opportunity to eject and he decides against it to land on the beach and then burn his plane and then be captured by the enemy. And I was just kind of like, this is gorgeous cinematic. I love.
Which part of that doesn't make sense? Like,
he could have ejected and like he just saved everybody. Now eject and go join them. But he really.
But how could he? Everyone's far gone. Kind of.
he
can't
he went
swim.
past everyone on the beach. He went
He
down
opens
to.
he opens the windshield when like he's right above everybody, and then he like looks down and then he like closes it. And I was just kind of like,
I got the impression that he was farther past when he opened the windshield.
Okay.
I got the impression that it was like he was opening it like, I'm gonna fucking crash anyway. Let me just like feel the air on my skin before I die. And then when he closes it, my impression was that it was like,
but there is
fuck that. I'm gonna land this plane without an engine, no matter how much it takes, because that's when he starts rolling. He has to crank.
There
down
is
the
another
landing
scene
gear.
in this movie where somebody opens and then closes and decides against it.
No, he doesn't decide against it. The guy can't open.
Yeah,
the
no,
other
because
pilot. It's stuck when he tries to open it.
No, I mean, I'm fully aware of that scene, but there is a scene where that guy opens and then closes and decides against ejecting too. I can't remember.
It's stuck. He does it
when
twice. He tries to open it
Okay.
as he's going down, and it's stuck, and he can't do it. So he closes it. Then he lands. He says, "I'm going to ditch." He lands the plane, and then he tries to open it, and it's stuck
Right.
again, so he can't get out. And that's when the C timeline has to crack him open from the pilot, the cockpit.
I don't know. I just kind of
It made perfect
I
sense
like
to me.
really missed the motivation behind that entire scene. It was just kind of like I loved it so much, but I was like, the fuck was that all really for?
No, I'm sorry, I fucking got it. I have to
it's
defend
also
that.
like a enormous like editing mistake where he's kind of like, whoa, he flew over us this way. Whoa, he's coming at a different 90-degree angle. It was
but
just
like,
kind
you
of
know,
like
when your
all
car's
over the
like
place.
low fuel and then it can.
I don't think that's how
drive
planes
for-
work.
What?
Like he was on, his propeller stopped spinning. He like lost every.
I mean,
They're
you
designed
don't
to be as low
know.
weight as possible so that they can literally
They can
glide.
like glide, like
But
like
could he make
little
like
squirrel
a very
bats.
tight turn where he flies over the general one way and then he flies over the general like making an X over him? Really? So
I mean,
is he able to go?
To be fair,
honestly,
they don't
I
show.
don't
I don't think
remember
they show the degree of
exact
turn that he makes.
See?
Right. But with the editing, we see him go one way and then come back.
But there is a pause
because.
because we see and we assume that kind of like, all right, he's gonna fucking die. Like everyone is watching him fly over the beach,
Right.
And they're kind of like you can hear or see in everyone's like expression like his engine's gone, like he's fucking dead. Then the other bomber starts coming, and we have the whole sort of terror of like everyone preparing for that to come.
Right.
And then we have the reveal of him coming back around and destroying the bomber. I think there is enough of a space there where I did not at all get the impression of like this is improbable.
Yeah.
It made complete sense to me. I was totally on
That was
board
just
with it.
the most
I thought that was the
disappointing
coolest
end
part.
of
I thought that made this fucking climax so cool. It was like a little twist, and then you were so invested in like I fucking love when he's like when he destroys the bomber and everyone's fucking like cheering, watching like this plane like glide away because they have the impression like he fucking sacrificed himself. We saw him go before. He doesn't have the propeller going, and then he comes back and kills this bomber, saves us from like tens of thousands of people dying from whatever bombs he's going to drop, and then we're assuming that he's going to go just ditch his plane without any propeller.
And then he lands.
And then he lands.
But then-
and they do a good job of showing that like it's a struggle to like get that landing gear out in time.
Which
it is improbable.
Is cool. Yeah, again, I thought that was just purely for cinematics and him burning the plane. I was just kind of like, why is all this happening? Kind of
Well,
like
burning the plane makes sense because they would not want the Germans to get their technology. That makes sense to me.
Yeah, I get.
You're not gonna. I mean, you can't. You're not gonna take the plane off again. Like they're not gonna be like, oh hey, you want some fuel to take your plane
then-
off again? Like
Yeah, well, because here's the thing: they could kill him and then put fuel in his plane and then fly it as like.
But if he
A
just
spy
ejected
kind of thing.
and crashed the plane, I feel like that would have both spared his life and the. I don't want to argue about it too much. I kind of want to avoid talking about the same thing for like a really long time. But one of my
what
favorite
the podcast
scenes.
is?
Well, we've been doing that
welcome to
particularly
talking
a lot,
about the same thing for a really long time. The podcast.
But one of my favorite scenes is of when that main general kind of looks like, fuck, this is really the end. That larger sort of aircraft is going to bomb. We're going to lose so many lives. And when Tom Hardy does shoot it down, it is this kind of like sigh of relief. And that almost made me like tear up and cry kind of, because it is just this sense of relief. And again, I think the editing kind of has something to do with kind of, I was just kind of like, what is Tom Hardy doing now? It's kind of like when we'd be in like the climax of a situation. This is a completely different, lane. But we'd be in the climax of like, people are drowning. Oh my God, it's like the middle of the night. And then it's kind of like Mark Rylance like putting around on a boat, like, midday. It was kind of like,
But that's like
But
the
I think-
suspense
again, I think-
of it
I think
all,
that's-
and that's like how
I think
it
the
intersects.
fault lies with the conceptualization, like the concept of
The
having
fault
these
is
three.
you.
I think the editing is still brilliant in this
But
movie
I-
because they do find ways to intersect, even when the timelines are not temporally intersecting. They find ways to make the timelines sort of line up. I thought with this, like it would get really tense in one timeline, and we cut over to
Because
something really
that's like
tense in
I feel
another
like that's the
timeline.
anxiety of like the movie is like you watch it and you're like,
but to combat that, it's kind of like we do that in Star Wars, right? In like the third act, but it's kind of like when, Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader are fighting, and then we like kind of cut over to Lando. Like that's kind of like weird, right? But
I don't know, you're speaking a foreign language, baby.
There's two different like music themes that are happening at that, and I love this score to death, but it just makes it seem like it's all happening in a same timeline, which I didn't like. It was kind of like tick 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 dark, like completely blackness, and then it's still ticking, and it's like broad daylight, and I was just kind of like, what? Like kind of, I don't know.
I agree.
There's
It's offsetting, and that's like my only complaint with this movie.
Right.
hold
yeah,
on,
yeah,
let's
yeah.
talk
Is
about
that
that fucking tick-tocking fucking shit.
Yeah, let's talk about the sound for
That
this goddamn movie.
is
Yeah.
so...
Thank you so much for convincing me to see this, and
Oh
also my
my gosh, Mike.
transmission breaking down and me having to see the cheaper option.
Like, my transmission is, like, enough of it. Like, enough trauma.
Well, also, I think my cousin Tara was also like, see it in 70 millimeter. And I was kind of like, no, you could have seen it in IMAX. Like, 70 millimeter sounds so much more.
I do have to say that the visuals did not look as great in IMAX. Again,
Okay.
I don't think it was cropped the right way at the AMC that I saw it in. Like, especially because I watched like all the videos that were like, how should you watch Dunkirk?
Right, yeah.
And I was like,
Dunkirk.
the IMAX is like this like squared kind of format, or at least more towards square. And this was just like watching like a regular movie.
But, like, the sound...
Like it was just widescreen, and like I remember what they used the scene of like all of them on the mole and like the plane flying over, and there's like the one guy that looks over. It's
Right,
in the trailer
yeah.
shot, and they used that shot in that video explaining like which format should you watch it in, and they were like, if you watch it in 70, it's really cut. You don't see the top and bottom of that shot, and that's kind of how it looked in this IMAX that I watched it in.
That's so weird.
Because that you were telling me like, oh, like it's not going to be cropped the right way, and then if in the way that they were cropping it in that video, like you get like a whole lot of like the top and bottom of that shot.
Right, yeah.
But it's like the fucking sound that makes it.
Oh yeah,
It is. Like, I was fucking like shaking in my seat. Like, it's just a like overwhelming like sensory overload. It's like feeling. It's hearing, and it's like
there's three things going on at pretty much all time.
Right.
We have the ticking clock, and this is why I talked to Joe about this. I think this is like one of the first trailers I've seen where the movie is pretty much exactly what you see in the trailer, because the trailer has that ticking clock going the entire time, and then that sound pretty much goes for the entire movie.
But is that not the most anxiety provoking? Like, I can't even play like fucking games, like board games that have like time ticking, like, or like taking tests, like time constricted
but it's
things.
intentional. I think it works.
Oh no, that's what I'm saying. Like, time constricted things are so anxiety provoking, and that's why I think it's
A
important.
little bit of not insider. I just read Wikipedia about.
Whoa, Mike's an
that's-
insider. He knows Harry.
That's Christopher Nolan's actual pocket watch. He recorded it and sent it to Hans Zimmer and was like, "Hey, this could be cool." And then
And Hans Zimmer has used even a
it sounds, because when we watched the trailer,
Interstellar too or something.
I don't know if it's an actual pocket watch, but that sort of.
Oh no,
that,
but the concept
intensity,
of ticking time.
Yes.
Like, I know he also uses that in Sherlock Holmes or whatever too.
I haven't seen that, but he doesn't. I don't think he uses an actual pocket watch, but he has notes that are timed to the actual like
a ticking
time of a
sensation,
ticking
right, yeah.
sound in like Dark Knight and Dark Knight Rises, especially during like the middle of the movie where it's getting like really intense, and you'll have like just like violins going like dun, 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 or like plucking the strings.
It's like
dun, dun,
bees like swarming. It's like the same fucking like
He
sound.
kind of also uses like that. I forget exactly what it is. VOX wrote like a huge article and did like a video essay on it, but like it's kind of like, it's called like a phantom scale or something, where it just sounds like it's always going up, kind of. So it's always building
like an
anticipation,
auditory
but it's-
illusion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm. So it's just going to and it sounds like it's continuous scale going upwards. And I know like Christopher Nolan loves to use that in a lot of his
Well, he does it
films.
with like the violins, where it sounds like they're kind of like going, but like one of them is staying at the same note and the other one's going up. It kind of sounds like the THX, like
right.
that's what it sounds
yeah.
like, and that's in the violins a lot for this. And then the other noise that he uses, that's, from what I could tell, I wasn't paying attention to the audio the entire time because I was obviously watching the visuals, but it sounds like he has that kind of like it's like imitating like a heartbeat. It's like a sub bass, like,
But it's like,
and then when it gets really intense, it's like,
but it's like that survival sound of like,
So
it's like
you
that
have those-
subliminal like survival sound.
Yeah, it's not technically soundtrack, although maybe it shows up in the soundtrack.
I feel
where
like
they
it is
actually record
soundtrack
it.
to me in my
It's,
heart.
to me, it's more of sound design that like Hans
definitely.
Zimmer coordinated with, because it's more of just like there's no actual music going on there. I mean, I guess it's technically music, but like it's more. It's trying to create a feeling through sound rather than notes. Rather, I mean, I know that's a pretty like bad explanation.
That's
No,
what
no,
they
like,
do
what
in
music
like
is
what's
exactly
that
what I mean.
like? There's like some horror movie where like I don't watch a lot of them, but they use like the like lions roaring or like fucking like bees humming. In like very very low tones, but it's like subliminally your mind, or like they like shoot images of like
Right,
it's like
yeah.
very quick of like these things, and it's like like subliminally your mind is like,
Right.
I have to fucking survive. And I feel like that's what like that like those sounds are.
Well, it makes you very conscious of like the time that's going on because like every second that they're on the beach is like a second that the Germans get closer to completely cornering them in and just slaughtering all of them on the beach there. Trying to think what else. I feel like we haven't talked about all that.
We haven't
There's
talked
so much
really
more to talk
about
about this
anything,
movie,
yeah.
but we're so deep into this review.
What if you guys did a part 2?
I do love Tom Hardy's performance in this, even though there is like, what is with fucking Tom Hardy's?
He's so fucking cute.
He looks like Bane in this movie.
Yeah, I was about to say, what is with his agent and like selling like people on like the top half of his face, because he's very expressive. It reminds me of Mad Max when he's kind of like in like the fucking muzzle.
But
and
it's
he's
because
like,
he.
know, like-
Yeah, I didn't realize that. Mad Max and Bane and Dark Knight.
Oh, I never
Or Dark
saw
Knight
Mad
Rises,
Max
rather.
either.
yeah, because like
I'm missing out.
they have him in like like kind of like a thing.
Well, he
like in
has
Mad
to
Max,
also
yeah.
breathe in the air,
Yes.
right?
does.
Is that like, isn't that a thing?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
definitely. Yeah,
So
that's
like
part of it.
that's part of his.
I was like waiting for him to talk in like a Bane voice, just because it's the same like setup.
Batman!
You were born in.
I was born.
You were molded by.
I was shaped in the dark. Come right up, extra. Sound like a weird like circus.
Yeah.
I don't
Yeah.
remember any of that.
Did you see
It's
Dark
in like
Knight
the
Rises?
third Batman.
Oh, just the
Yeah.
first.
He's like the villain. in
But
the
Tom
third
Hardy
Batman.
and Cillian Murphy are both in Peaky Blinders, so check that out because it's a great show.
Definitely.
I don't think there's a lot of fantastic, and this is not to discredit the movie at all. I still think the movie's fucking fantastic. I don't think it requires great performances, but I don't think anyone besides, I will argue, for Mark Rylance.
I was literally about to say.
I think he gives a better performance than he does in Bridge of Spies.
Yeah.
You mean better than Harry Styles?
Yes.
I think.
Sorry.
Yeah, and I don't even. Bridge of Spies was like, why is he up for this nomination? And then I can't.
think
that
Bridge
that
of
was
Spies-
the biggest upset of that Oscar year too, right?
Did he not? He won it though, didn't he?
He did, but I thought there was nothing really after that was like surprising. I think that was the biggest surprise of the night, is maybe what I meant to say.
Was it supposed to? I thought he was supposed to win. Who did he upset? I can't remember.
I can't.
Thinking back.
What does upset mean? Like you're
Like someone's supposed to
upsetting
win.
a-
Someone's
or
supposed to
like
win and you win
upset
instead.
someone, or like you're upsetting.
It's kind
Upsetting
of like
the general prediction about what should happen.
So you're making them upset, or you're
I
like
mean,
upset.
someone is upset who bet on it, maybe. Like,
right, yeah. So like
You're
if one
upsetting the-
basketball team's supposed to win and they don't win, the other team's upsetting them.
But are they also?
Yeah, I don't know.
someone
I
is
don't know.
probably upset. Yes.
Okay. I
It's
didn't
an
know it was
upset.
like
It's
something.
most of the people who bet on it did not win. It's an upset.
In Bridge of Spies, I sort of get it. Like, he's a very likable role. He's this clever character that's kind of got all these like one-liners. He's making us laugh throughout Bridge of Spies. It's not the greatest acting performance, but I get why people were drawn to it, because he's kind of like almost the comic relief of that movie, because he has all those lines of like, would it help, and all that stuff that he kind of says. But it's not the greatest performance. This is a good fucking performance in this
definitely.
movie.
I
Like,
He's like the old man on the boat.
yeah, because like he has the lines where he's just kind of like,
I
you
love
know,
him.
being whatever. I really like. There's like two scenes that stick out for me. The one
Sylvester
scene,
Stallone was supposed to win for Creed. He was also up against Tom Hardy for The Revenant, and Mark Ruffalo in Spotlight,
Oh,
and
Tom
Christian
Hardy
Bale in
was
The
in
Big
The
Short.
Revenant. I never saw that.
yeah, Tom Hardy should have won that year.
Yeah.
Um,
Almost everyone but
Sylvester
him
Stallone
was.
was
So
still really
now
good in
that's
Creed.
why Tom Hardy didn't crash the plane, because he's like, "Fuck you." What's his name? Tommy Lance or something? What
Yes,
is it?
Tommy Lance.
What is it?
Hey, what's up? What's up, ladies? My name's Tommy Lance.
He's like, "Fuck you."
You want to feel these abs?
He's like, "You won the Oscar. I'm not gonna crash this plane. I'm gonna fucking glide
What do you think
on."
Mark Rylance looked like in his youth?
Oh,
was
Mark
he like?
Rylance.
Was he like? What's up? The name's Tommy Lance.
he's probably a pretty good looking guy.
I think
he's
kinda-
still a good-looking guy.
I
Like I
mean-
said, they
Anyway.
look like an LL Bean catalog.
I do love
We're
older
so
men.
deep in this
I
video.
know.
The two
We
scenes
didn't even
that
talk about George.
the two
dying.
scenes
Oh my
that I
God.
love with Mark Rylance. The one scene is where Cillian Murphy, or earlier in the movie, Cillian Murphy hits George. George falls, hits his head,
George.
and it's like it's pretty understood that George is probably going to die. And then when
I was actually surprised when they said like, mate,
They're like,
he's dead. Yeah,
I
that
think
took me by
Harry was the
surprise.
one that was like, "Can you move your friend?" And
Oh,
he's
yeah.
like, "He's dead."
But when the one guy just turns around like matter of fact, he's like, mate, he's dead.
It's Harry, yeah.
Yeah, and
I don't think it's Harry who said.
Is Harry.
Is it?
Yes.
Like,
It's again.
why
it's,
is
it's,
Harry
it's when
in all of these different?
because he's
It's this
fucking
one-
good.
it's when-
Why is he given all of this dialogue?
It's when the
No.
timelines intersect. Yeah, they pick them up from the oil spill and they save them, and then they're all trying to cram down there. But George's body is there, and he's trying to move it, and Peter's like, "Careful with him," and he's like, "Mate, he's dead." Like,
I literally don't think that's Harry.
and he's like, "Well,
though.
yeah,
It
then
is
be careful
Harry.
with
I
him."
think you guys are.
I swear
no,
to
no,
God,
no,
I
it's
think you
Harry.
guys are projecting Harry onto like a
no,
lot of
I
different
fucking
scenes.
swear to God, it's Harry.
Okay.
It's Harry. It's
okay.
Harry.
Okay.
I will
I
hit
believe
my
you.
leg again.
I believe you. I mean, I remember
bet you-
every line he said just because.
I remember being surprised that it was Harry because I was like, "Oh, that
Same.
was Harry that got." Okay, now I understand.
Like, I'm like,
Because-
Harry just told me that.
I mean, like, I specifically feel like I remember every Harry line just because he shows up so late in the movie. I'm like, oh, he's finally here.
He shows
Again,
up, like-
we don't want to argue
he
about
shows
this
up
because
20 minutes-
we've wasted so much time just arguing about
Again,
Harry.
but the point is that
Oh, well
George
then-
is dead,
sorry.
and Peter, Mark Rylance's son in the movie, Cillian is like, "Oh, is the boy going to be okay?" And Peter's like, "Yes," even though he knows he's dead. And then Mark Rylance kind of has that look where he looks at him. He's like,
thank you.
"I understand. Like, yeah, you. That was the right thing to do. This guy was not going to benefit anything from knowing that he killed that kid." And
Right.
I fucking love the scene where they're going towards the one crashed fighter plane. And Peter's like, "We didn't see like a parachute go out at all. Like he could be dead." And Mark Rylance, it's like one of like the only like emotional scenes we really get in this movie. It's a very kind of deadpan movie. Like we don't even really see like any soldiers on the beach like crying or anything like that. This is like the most emotion we get, and he's kind of like, "Yeah, but maybe he's all right, and maybe we can save him." Like, and you can kind of see.
Right.
Oh, sorry. And then the other scene I was thinking of is when before George dies, and Peter's talking to him like when George is hurt, and he's like, "Should we turn around?" And Mark Rylance is kind of like,
No.
"No, I think we go ahead." And
But also-
you can see in his head, like you can see the thought process he's going through of like,
He needs
this
a
is
hospital.
This
Because
is this
he's
kid from my
fought
town.
before.
He's going to die, but the greater duty that we have is to go save these
Right.
soldiers that need to get.
Was my
brought home.
impression didn't he fight before? Like,
His son was a
yeah. But not Peter,
hurricane
but like
pilot.
a different one.
His older son
Yeah.
was a hurricane pilot.
Yep. Okay.
Now I am placing Harry's face on that
yeah,
guy.
fuck you.
All right.
I was like, after this ends, we're gonna fucking YouTube it.
It's
and
one of
you're-
Harry's better scenes too, because again, when he's not doing like
Right,
the
yeah,
overly
just
emotional
like-
I can
stuff,
picture
just
it
like,
now.
he's
no,
really
mate,
good.
he's
He's like,
dead.
"He's dead, mate."
And it's like
Maybe
the
I
fucking
wish
worst
there
thing
were
ever.
like more just extra lines, like so you can really. I mean,
think
they are
here's the
following
thing,
these
you guys
people.
aren't good with silence, maybe.
But this,
that's
but
my
like
thing.
to kind of wrap back around to the heroism I was talking about before in the Tom Hardy character or whatever. I do think there is like a degree of heroism that's displayed in Mark Rylance's character, who's just like a citizen who has taken it's displaying a different degree or shade. He's kind of like. He's a citizen who takes it upon himself to do the right thing, and I love that fucking like British stiff upper lip persona that he has. It gets a little melodramatic at times, but it really works. He's definitely my
I think
favorite
the entire
performance.
movie is like the
He's kind
contrast.
of
The
like-
contrast
yeah.
between the reality of war and that there's all these soldiers that have just been through the war from their experience in France, and they just want to get the fuck out. Like
Yep.
they're willing to do fucking anything. The guy who lives in France is willing to impersonate a British soldier and bury him and pretend to be British just to get off the island. Tommy is like willing to like purposely seek out someone who's injured but not
Yep.
dead in order to get onto this goddamn like
Right.
boat, and like they're all trying to just get off this island, and then all the like the bravery we see is from people who are like coming from the mainland,
Because then it's like
the people who haven't seen like the horrors of war, so to speak.
because then it's like George who's like, I'm gonna go on this ship, and then he fucking dies.
I can be useful. Yeah, he's
Yeah.
the
And
bravest
then, like,
people
when
are
he's,
George,
like, dying, and
Peter,
then he's like,
Mark Rylance, and then the two fighter pilots who really
Yeah.
haven't been through the entirety like of the horror of the war.
Right, yeah.
And then all the cowardly characters that we get are like the ones trying to get off France.
Mm-hmm.
Cillian Murphy obviously is the most cowardly of them all.
Right.
But it also shows us that we can like sympathize with them, like, and that's why I really like the scene of like, yeah, there's that's good enough to just survive. Like that's
Right.
there's
And that's-
bravery in
But that's-
trying to get home to your family. And,
But that's also like what trauma does. It's like you go into fight or flight.
Right.
So like people sometimes can't help that response.
And
But
I
like,
think that's why that's the most fulfilling arc.
but I
in the
think that's also
movie.
why it's the scariest.
Which one?
The mole, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I kind of also thought the Mark Rylance, like kind of in his kitchen, and then him being like, "Look, he's in the newspaper," and I was like, "Yeah, that's a callback," but I was kind of like, "There's no real, I don't know."
that was fulfilling though, because
Yeah.
when
But
he's
to
when,
me, I'm
when he's
like-
there and he's like I can't see, I'm blind. He also has the line where he's like, I just thought I could do something and they would write about me.
He's
in the
like, I
paper
hope
back
my
home."
dad
Right, yeah,
is proud
definitely.
of me. Like tell my dad. Like
I did
was
like
like-
that because that was the one thing that kind of pulled it out of like the almost like too true and too honest feeling the rest of the movie had. Like that was the one thing that was like, yeah, that's obviously a little constructed and fabricated, but it's just enough to like make me care about one of these characters. That was the other thing, is that I didn't think, besides like that scene and like the Mark Rylance scene, we didn't really have a lot of emotion from these characters. Like we never had a scene of like a soldier crying.
Right.
Even like the scene where like the one soldier like walks into the ocean to like kill himself. Like everyone's just kind of like watching, just kind of like really like,
but isn't
this is
that
just
like
kind of par for the course
defeated,
right now.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
sorry.
What?
But isn't that like the kind of like I'm not a man, but just like being like a man is like, I'm not gonna show I'm weak. This is like me being strong. Even if I'm killing myself in the ocean, like I'm still being strong because like I'm doing this, and like
But
other people aren't being upset about
in
it.
war,
But I
like
feel
nobody's like, oh, I need
No,
to be
no,
a
no,
man
no.
right now. Like,
really.
Right, because
In
I mean,
war, I don't think people give a
they
shit.
display like a lot of.
But then they're
like,
gonna come
like-
home and be like, oh,
Well,
I'm speaking specifically about Harry Styles because I thought he was being
right, but I mean,
Well, I
like,
think like
this-
men who think they're going to die and think there's no consequence, like they're not going to have to go home and face their family. Like, why
I mean,
wouldn't they
isn't
cry on the
suicide a
beach?
cowardly thing to do?
I'm
Because
not gonna get into all
he's
that.
he's too scared of dying from like the next dive bomb, so he'd rather take it on his own terms and be in
But
control
I'm
of
not
his
even
own
thinking
death.
about like I'm thinking
Oh,
about
I mean, that was
like
just like the last
being
thing.
like on an island for a week. A, you can't poop because clearly you can't. B, like you're getting like you have like no like water. Like what are you gonna drink? That like gel foam that's coming up like in those like remember those like
Yeah, that was
shots
weird.
of
That
the like gel foam.
material. What is that? That's just
Like,
like
that's
I mean,
like-
that's foam that I think
solidified
But it's-
foam
yeah,
in the
because it's, like,
winter.
cold-
I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
when it's colder.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
It was
okay,
ugly.
here's like, oh, it was fucking, I
It
was like,
gross,
yeah, I was like,
yeah.
It's like, so A, you can't poop. B, you can drink gel foam. Or,
Is there a C?
yeah, die.
Oh.
Either by, like, you do it yourself or you go, like, you get killed. You know what I mean? Like, there was no hope. Like, I feel like the thing is, like, that there was, like, nobody had hope the whole time. Like, I feel like I might cry about it. Like, there was, like, no hope. Like, nobody felt hope.
Right.
Even that scene in the very beginning when like Harry is with like the other guy and they're eating like the toast down below and then the torpedo come whatever.
That's
He's
definitely
like,
one of my favorite
but
scenes.
yeah, but
too,
Harry's
yeah.
like, where's your friend? And he's like, I think he's trying to find an easier way out.
Mm-hmm.
And then we find out later that that's like the French guy, right?
Yeah.
That,
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. But that's the thing is that like maybe he was trying to find it. Maybe he was gonna go fucking jump in the ocean.
I thought the toast scene was definitely Harry's best scene. Like that's where he felt the
Well,
most
'cause his
natural.
jaw was like,
and he
"Yeah,
was
baby."
just, but like, but there is like a real big sense of hopelessness. I
Mm-hmm.
thought like one of the best scenes in the movie where the editing actually worked for me is when they pick up the wounded soldier just to get onto like the medic ship
Right,
or
right,
whatever.
right.
But there's also this sense of hopelessness where they get like taken off and then the boat gets bombed and then the wounded guy that they put on the boat just drowns. Like it's just there's such like a dark like oh like this is our only like way out and like let's put this like wounded guy on here and then the boat just goes down.
I don't think I noticed the guy they saved drowning.
You just have to assume like
Oh,
it's
okay.
a boat where all of the wounded people who need like medical attention gets fucking bombed and like so all of these people who need help just die immediately. Like, it's a really hopeless kind of, like, it really sets the tone.
Well,
kind
I
of
went
during
into
that
this
time.
movie thinking that Harry Styles was going to die the whole time because I was like, oh,
I
he's
thought
going to
he
be in
was
like.
too.
I was
think
like,
I've said that on this
yeah.
podcast.
Right, yeah,
before.
no, I said
he's
that.
I was
fucking
like,
dead. Because in the trailer, there's a scene of him like
drowning, kind of. And I was like, oh my God, he's going to like die in the first scene. Cool. He's going to. I was like not even really expecting him to have many lines. I thought he was just going to like drown and then be like, okay, we'll move on. And then I was like, yes. Yes, Daddy.
He survived.
All right, we gotta start wrapping.
All right,
we gotta start
right.
wrapping this up.
Yeah.
Do you want me to say my fingers first because I know what they are?
Yeah, go ahead.
If you're hold on, let me just read
Oh.
the audience. On the review aggregator Rotten Tomatoes, the film holds an approval rating of 93%. Good job, Chris. Based on 286 reviews, that's a lot, with an average rating of 8.6 out of 10. The site's critical consensus reads, Dunkirk serves up emotionally satisfying spectacle delivered by writer-director in full command of his craft and brought to life by a gifted ensemble cast that honors the fact-based story.
I don't know why.
I think I would maybe just disagree with gifted ensemble cast. I think they're so, but I don't think it hurts the movie.
they were amazing.
I don't think the point of the film is to portray great acting pieces.
That's
that's
part of what I
yeah.
like about it is that I love the fact that they just casted British people because there's no like Channing Tatum does like
And like kind of no
British
one was a
accent
lead.
or,
Do you know what I mean? Like it was like all people. Like
it's just the faces of
all
war.
people.
It was good. All right, now you can give your
Okay, well, obviously, I'm going to give 5 Harrys and
5 hairy fingers.
5 hairy fingers. I mean, obviously, like, I'm very, very, very biased in the sense that I love Harry Styles and, like, I was very impressed with his role. But also, like, I know, like, Cillian Murphy and, like, Tom Hardy and those are the only people I know.
Tommy Lance.
Tommy Lance, my boy Tommy
killing
Lance.
it on the boat. I gotta get these boys off the island.
Hey babes, we gotta go save those soldiers. Check out these abs. I'm Tommy Lance.
But,
Bam! There's no hiding from this.
but here's the thing. Okay. Now listen to me, boys. Okay. So there was like a point and like when
Dunkirk.
Okay. Does Mama get to talk or no?
I hope the audience can see what's in mine and Joe's head because we're saying the same thing right now. It's like a privileged like white guy, like
Bro Mark Rylance.
yeah, like an Instagram famous like hot dude. Tommy Lance.
Tommy Lance, add me on Instagram.
Going to save some dudes in Dunkirk.
And then he sends you an unsolicited dick pic.
There's no hiding from this. Dunkirk.
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 No. Okay.
Oh, continue.
Well, fuck. I don't even know what I was gonna say. Thanks. Fuck
Sorry,
you.
Tommy-
Fuck you.
Tommy Lance took over.
Well, that's the white privilege. White male privilege, to be exact. Okay.
Just channeling it.
Yeah. I mean, cool. Yeah, I literally don't remember what I was gonna say. So, I guess 5 fingers.
All right. 5 hairy
Cool.
fingers.
I mean, that kind of says it all. You had no problems with the movie, apparently, if it's a 5 fingers.
Yeah,
No,
there's
but
no
I had
complaints.
stuff to say. But then you stole my fucking thunder.
It was just Tommy Lance showed up,
Tommy's-
and he was
He took control of the situation.
Yeah.
Go on.
Oh god. I can go next. I had very few problems with this. I think I've voiced all the problems I had. I think, and a lot of the problems I have are like half problems where I still sort of forgive them and enjoy them. Like I think the movie maybe could have benefited from like another emotional scene or two. It's kind of like deadpan the entire time, but it still works. I think it could have maybe like I think there's some confusion for the first act or two, like we discussed, about the timelines, but I also think the timelines are some of like the greatest benefits of this movie. Like I think the third act and the climax of this movie work because it's like, it's not only are we seeing the culmination of these storylines, we're seeing these storylines intersect where they've been isolated before, and it kind of adds this kind of added like, fuck yeah, like we're seeing these characters interact that we had come to care about, and now they're helping each other or they're working together or whatnot, and they're interacting. And I thought that really worked. I think this is like some of the most incredible sound design I've seen in a movie before. Besides like it reminded me of Creeshaw a lot, just in terms of using non-musical sounds in the soundtrack to generate emotion. Yeah, like the Christopher Nolan's actual pocket watch, and then whatever this like sub bass sort of like heartbeat that we have going on, where like whatever the tempo of that dictates how we feel more than like the actual music of the soundtrack. Like when it's just like a whatever scene, it's like boom, 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 and then when things get really tense, it's like boom, 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 like this sub bass like oscillating in that way, and it really kind of just dictates how you're supposed to feel in the movie. And I thought that was really effective. And I think everyone's serviceable. I think Mark Rylance is. I haven't seen his entire career, but Tommy Lance gives the performance of his career. Harry Styles is even fine in this role. I think I maybe would have liked to see someone else have more of the screen time, just because he's all right. He's not bad.
I'm happy with him.
I know you are. I think I would have liked to see more from like Tom Hardy. He has kind of like a pretty diminished role in this.
He does,
and just he has that kind of persona where just when he's on screen he commands the screen.
He does.
And I would have liked to see more of his actual face and more of him
because he's
in
also
this movie, because like it's like a pretty empowering moment when you finally see him with the mask off at the end as he's getting captured standing in front of the plane. I think this is one of like my favorite climaxes I've seen in a long time. Like maybe only second to like Interstellar of the past couple of years, like, and to that point, like I like this movie a lot, but I think Interstellar is still my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. A lot of people would disagree with me on that, but Interstellar just hit a lot of the right points for me. But I'll give this 4.5 out of 5. I have very few complaints. It could have been better. It's not a perfect movie, but like I'm really not gonna throw stones at a movie like this. Like this is an experience to watch this movie. I was so engaged the entire time. Like
even though it's like long, I hate long movies, and it's also like
it doesn't feel long.
There's not a lot of dialogue, but it goes by so quick. I think it's because of the anxiety that you experience.
Podcast, like, I mean, we'll talk about with Atomic Blonde, like I fucking fell asleep during it, or like I'm just kind of like I have to go see this movie. It's like a chore sometimes to see some of these movies.
This was an event.
And like I think even if I hadn't been excited to see this, I just would have been pleasantly surprised because it pulls you in through the editing and the writing and somewhat of the acting, but definitely through the soundtrack and stuff as well. So 4.5 fingers for me. Joe, go.
All right, I'll just like touch on literally what I did during this podcast and close up some other thoughts. But again, my really only complaint was the editing. I just don't like Christopher Nolan's editor. I think it can be like, where is Batman? How did Batman get from here to there kind of thing? Like sometimes it is so, I guess maybe even on a higher level than somebody like me can be like, I don't completely understand. Again, I really enjoyed when editing scenes did work. Like, you know, I totally knew the motivation and everything that was happening when they're taking the wounded soldier to the boat and everything, and that was great. But maybe it's more of the construct as a whole that doesn't work with this editing at times and makes it feel a little more problematic. I think the realism of this film doesn't merge well with the structure. I think it makes it just the way that it's like the construct just feels a little artificial compared to the realism that we're thrown into, you know. Again, like I was talking about, like it'll be midnight and then it'll be the middle of the day, and I mean this is a common method in filmmaking where, you know, we'll cut from one storyline to another. But again, traditionally when you're doing cuts like that, it's, you know, it's assumed that it's all happening at the same time. You know, like Lando is
Or
going on his own
chronologically,
event.
so when you cut
Right.
today, it's the next day,
Like
rather than a week
yeah.
ago.
Like whatever Lando's doing is happening at the same time as when Luke Skywalker is with Darth Vader or whatever.
I don't know what the fuck what you're talking about.
So
Fuck
again,
Star Wars. Fuck you.
There's a sense of artificiality. Christopher Nolan's always trying to do something challenging in cinematic language, and I think,
And good for him.
and
You go, girl.
but like I don't know, and I talked about I love Memento. That's my favorite Christopher Nolan film, but I don't know. Even though this didn't completely work out for me, I think it's important that we support Christopher Nolan, like in whatever he does, because he's pushing the boundaries of what cinema is, and I think that's why this movie is so important. Again, besides that, and that's why I can't really have like a full-throated, 5-finger praise, because there's just too many buts, and I don't know, some of his just chances that he took didn't work out. But again, I also want to place like a caveat on that, where it's kind of like, guys, if you haven't already, go see this in theaters. It's an experience I don't think you're gonna want to miss. I can't advertise it.
We didn't really talk about it, but there is early Oscar buzz for this as being like a front runner right now, compared to everything
as it should be. Yeah,
compared to everything that's come out. We've had sort of a weaker selection of, or at least Oscar contending films. Even though we've had good films coming out, nothing else is really making a push like Dunkirk has so far.
Right. Like, have we ever seen anything as beautiful as like those fucking like Spitfire planes doing like a they're like fucking dogfighting in IMAX? Like, it's crazy. We've never seen anything like that.
I fucking love the
wild
scenes that are like Twilight with like the bokeh going on in
Yeah.
this. Like, he does that a lot in his movies. But
I also love like there was like some article that I was like always like making fun of. I think the AV Club was like, oh, like Nolan like did all like got all these blockbuster films out of the way. Now he wants to make an old man war movie. Fuck Nolan that he's reverting back to this. I was like, if you only knew what was coming, you dipshit. I think they've deleted the article since. I can't find it anymore. But I do still love like Nolan's like sensibilities. It's kind of like a throwback to old Hollywood, like in the 1950s, where they wouldn't just like, it wouldn't be like CG, but they'd actually have like, oh my god, like here's like 6,000 extras or whatever. I mean, I think he actually does have.
He had a lot of fucking extras.
Oh no, but it wasn't like old times where it's in like the tens of thousands, where it was kind of like everybody shows up because we don't have the technology not to do this kind of thing. But no, he did actually have over 6,000 extras. And I mean, there's still a lot of painted extras, especially on like those shots where they're looking at the beach and all the boys are like lined up or whatever. Some of those are painted. And I think they were all British too, or something. Like a lot of the extras were British, which is challenging. That sounds like it's all of Britain. Britain's not like that, but again, great experience, technical marvel. One of the greatest cinematic experiences I've ever had, completely immersive. I love that there was little dialogue. I thought I was going to be like super original and say that I could definitely draw parallels to this in silent films, but I've heard like 3 reviewers say it since then. Fuck you.
should have recorded earlier.
But yeah.
So how many fingers do you give it?
Well, I mean, yeah.
Because that's what you're trying to do.
It's also like the way that it was tied together at the end wasn't particularly interesting.
You're
to
not
me.
gonna let me tell what I wanted to say, but
What you forgot when we were talking about Tommy Lance.
Careful of Harry.
Harry.
I'm really upset. Just so
You
you
must
know,
be if you-
this is on the fucking.
You can go again after me if you want to, but I don't know.
I didn't have 3 days
In a way,
plus
this movie still
a
kind
week
of
to take notes about it.
This
so...
movie kind of feels slight. It's hard to build a connection besides being inside of this film itself.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Right, exactly. But I
Yeah.
understand that might be Nolan's intention, but me, like, speaking as an individual, he is expressing the senselessness of war. It's like there's a singular tone throughout the entire film of just, like, loss or just hopelessness or whatever. I wouldn't say this movie is completely for everybody, but again, I thought this was kind of slight in a way. Anyway.
Well, I hope all of the One Direction ladies got to go see it. And I hope you fucking yelled at all the Harry Styles scenes and fucking fucked it up, baby. Fuck it up.
Fingers.
4 fingers.
Could have called that.
Yeah.
So that's going to come down to 4.5 fingers, what I gave the movie. I was right.
Mike was right.
I knew.
Like
exactly.
always.
I am the smartest man alive. Yeah, let's get out of this real quick. This has been a long one.
You guys should do a part 2 and put it on Patreon. I'm just saying.
Yes, because
comment on this episode if you would buy a subscription to our Patreon.
Nobody's listening at this point of the podcast.
Comment if you're just listening at this point.
Well, because you cut me off, but
whatever. Are we plugging anything for you? Do you want to be recognized?
I don't even fucking care at this point. I just have to
Sabrie
pay.
tweets
Don't
Harry.
you have, you have a Twitter account for
Harry Styles, yeah.
what is it?
Well, I don't know what the handle is, because I only go on it to tweet Harry, and it's been over a year.
I think it's just called Sabrie tweets Harry.
Sabrie tweets Harry. It's
Follow Sabrie tweets Harry on Twitter.
Just fucking guess Google that. I don't know.
You can find all of our shit at howmanyfingerspodcast.com. I'm not even going to go through all this stuff. It's been way too long of an
You guys
episode.
can look it up.
You hear it every week.
If you're listening this long,
If you're listening
fuck
this
you. Please don't ever listen again.
But do make sure you check out a review of The Big Sick next week and then Atomic Blonde the week after that.
Atomic bombs.
Atomic
Whoa,
bombs.
love them.
Signing out
Dunkirk.
for our review of Dunkirk with Tommy
They have
Lance
atomic bombs
and Harry
there.
Styles.
Hey, what's up, fam? Tommy Lance. George, you fucking idiot. Try not to get hit in the fucking face.
Somebody save me. Bye.
Signing out, I'm Mike.
I'm Joe.
And I'm Harry.
Oi!
He does not sound like...
Oh, I fucking am.
Fuck you.